The great wave of magical technology. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226, Firefight. If we can get this kind of weapon, will we be invincible? The third leader of the mountain bandits had a greedy look in his eyes. If we can catch the Baron named Dante and let him make this kind of weapon for us, will we still be afraid of the Imperial army? Third leader, in theory, it is like this, but we have no ability to take down the West Coast Gromtown now. Although we don't have this strength, we can go to the boss. If the boss can't do it, we can still. The third leader of the mountain bandits seemed to think of something when he was halfway through his words and hurriedly stopped. What else can we do? You can know what you should know, and don't ask about what you shouldn't know. Otherwise, The third leader of the mountain bandits said coldly with a cold light in his eyes. The men understand, and the men will never dare to do it again. Pass my order now. Retreat. You come and go as you please. What do you think my West Coast Gromtown is? At this time, Yunfan's voice suddenly came. Seeing Yunfan dressed as a magician, the third leader of the mountain bandits showed a trace of fear in his eyes. Little guy, I warn you not to bring trouble to yourself. Do you know? Do you know who we are? It's just a group of low-ranking mountain bandits. Yunfan said expressionlessly. Third leader, this person is Baron Dante from Gromtown on the west coast. A mountain bandit pointed at Yunfan and said to the leader, are you Baron Dante from Gromtown on the west coast? The third leader of the mountain bandits asked excitedly. There is a saying that there is a road to heaven, but you don't take it, and there is no door to hell, but you break in. I was just about to find you, but I didn't expect you to come. Yunfan couldn't help shaking his head. What are you waiting for? Quickly catch this guy for me. The third leader of the mountain bandits waved his hand and ordered the mountain bandits beside him. After hearing the order of the third leader, the mountain bandits rushed towards Yunfan. Want to use a human wave tactic? Young master, I'm the ancestor of the human wave tactic. Yunfan said as he summoned out the skeleton warriors he modified, a total of 50. Haha, skeleton warriors, are you kidding me? Even if you summon hundreds of these things, they will not pose any threat to me. The three leaders of the mountain bandits laughed. Really? As soon as Yunfan finished speaking, the skeleton warriors who were originally standing beside him actually ran up like real people, and in a flash they came to the crowd of mountain bandits. One by one, the skeleton warriors raised their knives and fell, and many mountain bandits were directly hacked to death before they could react. How is it possible? The three leaders of the mountain bandits looked at everything in front of them in disbelief. The skeleton warriors summoned by Yunfan had exceeded his cognition. At this moment, one of the skeleton warriors had come in front of him, and the alloy knife slashed towards him. The face of the third leader of the mountain bandits turned pale in an instant. It was too late to say that. The third leader of the mountain bandits hurriedly raised the big knife in his hand to resist. With a clang, sparks flew. The third leader of the mountain bandits opened his eyes wide and looked at the front of him in a daze. I don't know when, the alloy knife appeared in his eyes and collided with his big knife. The place where the big knife and the big knife collided, the edge had been collided flat, and some metal contact sparks were emitted. An alloy bone knife, shining with a faint sharp cold light, suddenly appeared in the wind. I saw that the alloy bone knife threw a strange arc in the void and suddenly stabbed the third leader of the mountain bandits. Until death came, the third leader of the mountain bandits still had an incredible expression on his face. It's the Baron. The palace soldiers are going to attack. The palace soldiers who were originally just defending all rushed out under the order of the captain. For a while, the mountain bandit team was defeated and suffered heavy casualties. Take the living bandits into the town and deal with the bodies. Yunfan ordered. Lord Baron defeated the bandit team, killing more than 100 bandits, and the 3 bandit leaders have been killed. Soon the news that Yunfan defeated the bandit team spread throughout the west coast Gromtown. The impression left by the bandit team on the west coast Gromtown was too horrible. The residents of the entire town lived in fear all the time, afraid of the arrival of the bandit team. The success of this bandit suppression made the people in the west coast Gromtown full of joy. Looking at the happy residents of the town, Yunfan considered whether to wipe out all the bandits. After interrogating Yunfan, he confirmed that the bandits were indeed homeless, which forced Yunfan to temporarily shelve this idea. Dante, I think you should have heard that we came here for a demigod's tomb. Although we don't know whether there is a secret of becoming a god in the tomb, a demigod's tomb is also very tempting. Zyra and her grandfather appeared in the Baron's mansion early that morning. So you are going to invite me to explore the tomb of the demigod with you? Yunfan asked doubtfully. Yes. Give me a reason. Although Yunfan had planned to intervene in the affairs of the tomb of the demigod, he did not directly accept Zyra's invitation. What an unromantic guy. I begged my grandfather for a long time before he agreed to let you explore the tomb of the demigod with us, but you don't appreciate it. Zyra pouted. Yunfan looked at Zyra and saw that the other party seemed to be really angry. He smiled slightly and said with a slightly teasing smirk, "Little girl, you are not really interested in this Baron, are you? Don't be so conceited. Who would like a stinky guy like you?" Zyra pouted and said with a look of disgust, "You haven't answered me yet. Do you want to go with us?" Yunfan weighed the pros and cons and finally decided to go with Zyra and the others. He knew too little about the tomb of the demigod. Great. I'll tell my grandfather now. Zyra saw that Yunfan agreed to her and left happily. What a little kid. Yunfan couldn't help shaking his head. In the small town of Grom on the west coast, under the leadership of Zyra's grandfather Ogden Rodney, a group of 20 people headed towards the Silent Canyon. What did you say to Zyra yesterday? How could she let you go with her? You have to understand the gap between you. Berkeley approached Yunfan and asked in a low voice, "You'd better have some self-knowledge, otherwise, are you threatening me? You can take my words as a threat, or you can ignore them, as long as you have the courage to withstand my anger." Chapter 227 Silent Forest. It seems that Zyra had not told others about his invitation. Yunfan looked at Zyra from a distance, with a slightly raised corner of his mouth, with a hint of mockery. You'd better not separate from Zyra and the others. It's absolutely common for a few people to die in the Silent Canyon. Everyone, pay attention. We are about to enter the Silent Forest. The trees and shrubs in the forest are lush, and the road is also tortuous and uneven. We can no longer ride girabeasts. We can only enter on foot. Everyone should follow closely, and don't fall behind, because there are many ferocious monsters in the Silent Forest. If you fall behind and are killed by monsters, it will be miserable. Ogden Rodney instructed everyone. In addition to Yunfan's team, there are many adventurers and merchants in the Silent Forest. They form teams of 3 or 5 and prepare to enter the Silent Forest. Wherever there are adventurers, there are traces of merchants. In the eyes of merchants, danger and opportunity coexist. Most adventurers go to the Silent Forest to capture monsters, while merchants exchange supplies with some races in the forest. Under Ogden Rodney's constant urging, Yunfan and his group of 20 people packed up their things and followed Ogden Rodney's steps into the Silent Forest. The Moses Forest and the Silent Forest meet, and it is actually difficult to distinguish one from the other. The Silent Forest is more mysterious than the Moses Forest. There are not only various ferocious monsters, but also many rare races, such as elves, dwarves, goblins, and barbarians. However, these races generally live in the inner layer of the Silent Forest. The inner world of the Silent Forest is full of mysteries and dangers, and it is said that there are huge treasures and precious items there, but few people dare to enter, and even fewer can enter and come out alive. Follow my steps, otherwise it is easy to get lost. Once you get lost in the Silent Forest, it will be difficult to get out again. After entering the Silent Forest, Ogden Rodney once again said to everyone solemnly. After walking for about half an hour, he began to change direction with everyone and headed straight to the northwest of the Silent Forest. The road in this Silent Forest is extremely rugged, with all kinds of hard stones and towering trees with lush branches and leaves everywhere. At the beginning, we encountered some relatively weak and docile monsters, which would hide when they saw people coming, but as we went deeper, those weak monsters gradually disappeared and were replaced by some tall and ferocious giant monsters. At the beginning, we could also meet many businessmen and adventurers, but as time went by, they each had their own different goals and chose to go their separate ways. After a while, they all disappeared, and no one knew where they were. Suddenly, several rapid sounds suddenly fell into Ji Yunfan's ears. Ji Yunfan could not help but release his mental power and then said, "There is a sound approaching, and it is not the sound of human footsteps. Dante, you are a low-level magician. It's funny that you can hear any danger." Berkeley would not give up any opportunity to ridicule Ji Yunfan. Since Ji Yunfan graduated, he has not worn the magician badge on his body, so Berkeley does not know Ji Yunfan's real rank very well. He just thinks that Ji Yunfan is a baron in this remote place and cannot be a powerful character. Since Ji Yunfan's King Didauki broke through the 5th level, his senses are much clearer than before, and he can sensitively feel some slight movements. With the help of mental power, he has sufficient confidence in his feelings. The phantom under the mental power is not human at all, and there are 30 or 40 of them. After hearing Ji Yunfan's reminder, Ogden Rodney also released his mental power to explore, but he did not find anything unusual under his mental power, so he ignored Ji Yunfan and the others. "Yunfan, it's normal that they don't believe you. For ordinary 5th level magicians, the range they can detect is only 500 meters in radius. The detection range of 8th level magicians is 2 or 3 miles in radius, and you are simply an outlier. You can detect the situation within a radius of 5 miles. Sakuden said in Ji Yunfan's heart, with a hint of jealousy in his tone. After Ji Yunfan found that no one took him seriously, he did not continue to argue. If he really said that he could feel the situation 5 miles away, it would be a lot of fun. Ji Yunfan continued to use his mental power to detect the situation. Under his mental power, he found that those black shadows were coming towards them rapidly. Ji Yunfan took a deep breath, took out the higher level shadow dagger awarded to him in the 4 major colleges ranking competition from the space ring, and carefully defended himself. The reason why Ji Yunfan didn't have the magic wand was that after he broke through the 5th level, the ordinary magic wand had a small increase in his magic, and the high level magic wands above the 5th level, and corresponding to his attributes were rarely circulated in the market. When Ji Yunfan took out the higher level shadow dagger, Ogden Rodney couldn't help but look at him more, muttering to himself, "This kid really has a good thing in his hand, a 7th level shadow dagger. Even I'm a little tempted after seeing it." The group continued to move forward. About 5 minutes later, Ogden Rodney suddenly raised his hand, frowned slightly, and asked the members of the team not to move for the time being. "What's wrong, Lord Ogden?" Ogden Rodney looked at Ji Yunfan meaningfully, and then said in a deep tone, "There are actually monsters approaching, and there is not just one. Everyone is ready to fight. Now we haven't gone too deep into the silent forest. It shouldn't be a particularly powerful monster." Ogden Rodney was talking all the way, and almost everyone was stunned. They looked at Ji Yunfan in surprise, and hurriedly took out their weapons from their space rings, and were on guard. Not long after, 10 leopard-like monsters with long black thorns all over their bodies suddenly ran out from all around. It opened its bloody mouth, and the fangs in its mouth were 2 inches long. Its sharp claws were 5 inches long, shining coldly, and felt like metal like a sword. Everyone must be more careful. This is a 4th level monster, the sashimi wind leopard, and it is one of the fastest 4th level monsters. Ogden Rodney's expression was very serious. You have to know that this kind of monster is not too high in rank for people in his team, but it is extremely difficult to deal with. As soon as Ogden Rodney finished speaking, everyone had already reacted. Chapter 228 Sashimi Wind Leopard. The warriors rushed forward directly, and the magicians chanted magic spells quickly. The 4 magics of wind, fire, earth, and darkness quickly took shape in the void as these magicians chanted spells. Then, under the command of these magicians, the attribute magics of the 4 element were shot at these sashimi wind leopards. Although the sashimi wind leopards were very fast, they were indeed much slower, because of the restraint of those warriors. 3 of the sashimi wind leopards were hit by magic and burst into blood flowers instantly. However, 2 of the 3 sashimi wind leopards that rushed in first avoided the obstruction of the warriors, and rushed straight towards the 4 magicians including Ji Yunfan. In addition to Ji Yunfan, the other 3 magicians including Zaya were panicked. The second magic they released was either too far away or exploded in the middle, and errors occurred in the chaos. Ji Yunfan used the Sword of Darkness to kill one of the 3 sashimi wind leopards directly. As for the other 2 sashimi wind leopards, one on the left and one on the right, when the one on the left was about to bite Zaya, Ogden Rodney suddenly made a move and 2 flame guns formed in the void, and then the flame guns flew out, and the direction was completely accurate and fell on the remaining 2 sashimi wind leopards. Several shrill and strange cries came from the mouths of the sashimi wind leopards, and the other sashimi wind leopards became even more crazy. Several sashimi wind leopards rushed towards Ji Yunfan. It was obvious that they had already regarded Ji Yunfan as their target. In their opinion, Ogden Rodney was the strongest and the biggest threat to them. Among the others, Ji Yunfan was the second most threatening. Ogden Rodney was busy paying attention to Zaya and forgot the threat on the right for a while. When the sashimi wind leopard came to Ji Yunfan, he suddenly reacted and wanted to rescue him. It was too late. The sashimi wind leopard actually rushed in front of Ji Yunfan, and its sharp claws attacked Ji Yunfan fiercely. "Dante, be careful," Zaya exclaimed. Ji Yunfan saw the sashimi wind leopard, which was already in front of him. His face was calm without any panic, and even a cold arc appeared at the corner of his mouth. When the sashimi wind leopard's claws were already in front of him, Ji Yunfan suddenly made a lightning move and swung the shadow dagger in his right hand violently. The shadow dagger drew a stream of light in the air and stabbed the sashimi wind leopard's neck directly. Everyone looked from a distance and found that a bright blue arc seemed to be drawn in the void. Then they saw Ji Yunfan's left hand landed on the sashimi wind leopard's belly, paused for a moment, and then suddenly retracted it. The sashimi wind leopard's body hit the ground like a meteor. Aren't you a magician? How can you have such a powerful force? Berkeley's eyes were about to pop out. You know, even he, a high level 4th level knight, may not be able to do this. I seem to be born with a little more power than others. Ji Yunfan pretended to know nothing. You're lying. I just saw a glimmer of green light. Just as Berkeley was speaking, a sashimi wind leopard suddenly pounced towards him. By the time he reacted, it was too late. The sashimi wind leopard's claws were only more than 10 centimeters away from his neck. Even if he wanted to use a knight's sword to resist, he couldn't do it. At this moment, Ogden Rodney once again condensed 2 flame guns. The 2 flame guns drew a beautiful red arc in the air. One of the 2 flame guns pierced the sashimi wind leopard's head and the other pierced its back. The sashimi wind leopard let out a shrill and strange cry, and then with a pop, the sashimi wind leopard fell to the ground powerlessly and never moved again. Berkeley, I told you from the beginning that you must be extremely careful in the silent forest. Even I'm not 100% sure that I can protect your safety. Ogden Rodney glared at Berkeley fiercely. Berkeley was also shocked by the situation just now. If the speed of the sashimi wind leopard was a little faster, and Ogden Rodney's flame gun was fired a little later, what awaited him was death. I'm sorry, Grandpa Ogden. Berkeley's heart beat quickly, and he couldn't calm down for a long time. Next time I don't want to hear an apology, Ogden Rodney said with a very gloomy face. If this kid was not the grandson of his friend, he would definitely let this kid fend for himself here. Absolutely not, Grandpa Ogden. Berkeley showed a learned expression on his face, but in fact, he was cursing in his heart. Damn old thing, if it weren't for you, I would have gotten that little girl's ear a long time ago. If you didn't have some value to use, do you really think my grandfather would treat you as a brother? Flame burning god meteor fall. Ogden Rodney chanted in a deep voice. Ogden Rodney knew that he had to show some real skills, otherwise the group of little guys he brought with him might be in danger of life. Fierce fire element gathered from all directions. Then, the cloudless sky was burning with blazing flames, which instantly exploded, turning from blue light to orange. Countless flames rose into the sky, forming blazing fireballs, which kept spinning rapidly. Then, the fireballs fell like rain, and the ground around the fireballs had already cracked. Endless flames fell into the world like a scorching sun, roaring and rushing down, instantly submerging the figure of the sashimi wind leopard. More than a dozen sashimi wind leopards wailed miserably, and then these sashimi wind leopards turned into ashes in the flames. Seeing this situation, the remaining sashimi wind leopards were filled with fear, screaming and quickly fleeing, and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. What a powerful 5th level high level magic fiery god burning. Ji Yunfan murmured involuntarily. Need I say more? You know my grandfather's nickname, but it's the Lord of Flame. Dante, what was that green light on your dagger just now? Why do I feel that it's fighting spirit? But isn't your profession a magician? Xayah has been paying attention to Yunfan. When she saw the green light at first, she thought she had seen it wrong, but Berkeley said the same thing later. After thinking about it, she felt that she should not have seen it wrong. Xayah's sister, I think you saw it wrong. Didn't you also say that I'm a magician? Yunfan smiled slightly and did not admit that he used fighting spirit. Haha, Xayah, don't let your imagination run wild. Dante's a magician. Ogden Rodney said with narrowed eyes. Chapter 229 Alien BBQ. Since Grandpa also thinks so, then it can't be wrong. What is going on? Grandpa Ogden should be able to see from his strength that I definitely used Dalki just now, but why did he hide it for me? Yunfan was muttering in his heart. Yunfan didn't say anything more, but the others also saw the situation just now and looked at Yunfan with some doubts. Okay, quickly deal with the bodies of these sashimi wind leopards. Sashimi wind leopards are a very cunning magic beast, and this kind of magic beast is a social animal. If they find a group of helpers and come again, it will cause some trouble. Ogden Rodney said seriously. After hearing what Ogden Rodney said, everyone took action. The 4th level magic beast definitely has a magic core in its head. This thing is the essence of magic beast. It can be said to be the most valuable thing on a magic beast. According to the rules of adventurers, whoever kills the magic beast, the magic core of the magic beast belongs to him. Except for Ogden Rodney who got more than 10 and Yunfan who got 3, the rest of the people almost only got 1. Although these people were a little unhappy about this little bit of gain, they still understood that rules are rules, and there is no order without rules. However, they all secretly made up their minds to kill more monsters. Ogden Rodney was slightly surprised by Yunfan's calmness, but he didn't seem to care too much. He ordered everyone to pack up quickly and continue on their way. The night fell, and the bright moonlight shone through the lush branches and leaves of the big trees, falling on every corner of the silent forest. Some unknown monsters hummed, bringing some vitality to the quiet forest. Ogden Rodney led everyone to a stream and said, "Everyone hurry up and find some firewood. We will set up camp here. Remember not to go too far." Hearing Ogden Rodney say that they would stop and set up camp, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. After a long day of walking, almost everyone was exhausted. Perhaps because of exhaustion, almost everyone collapsed to the ground at once. I didn't expect it to be so tiring. It's mainly because the intensity of our march this time is quite high. Forget it, let's not discuss this. Let's hurry up and get firewood so that we can cook. I don't want to eat the dried meat I brought. The bonfire lit up the night instantly, making the somewhat cool night spread in the slightly warm heating. Yunfan used a dagger to cut the monsters hunted today into small pieces of fresh meat, and then used the shadow dagger to cut the heads of several wooden sticks into sharp points, and then stuck the fresh meat slices on the wooden sticks. He picked up several wooden sticks full of fresh meat and kept stirring them on the hot bonfire. With the sprinkling of some seasonings he prepared, the red and shiny barbecued meat was filled with tempting meat aroma. In his previous life on Earth, Yunfan was a real foodie. In order to eat delicious food, he had learned from several top chefs. Although he was busy with many things, after coming to this world, he did not have much time to satisfy his appetite. However, he still developed some special seasonings in his spare time. It smells so good, Dante. I didn't expect you to make this. Why is your barbecue different from mine? Xayah wrinkled his cute nose, stared at the piece of meat that Yunfan picked up, and sighed in surprise. Because I have a secret recipe, Yunfan said with a smile. The barbecue made by Yunfan was so delicious that even Ogden Rodney couldn't help but look over and wanted to see what Yunfan's recipe was. Do you have a secret recipe? Is it the flour you sprinkled on the meat? What is this flour? It smells so good. Xayah asked curiously. Are you smart, little girl? This is my secret recipe. It took me a long time to mix it. It can bring out the flavor of meat to the extreme. Yunfan said with a little pride. Brother Dante, you brag without thinking. Xayah pouted and said unconvincedly. Although her words were a little arrogant, her eyes were always staring at Ji Yunfan's barbecue. Since you don't believe it, forget it, Ji Yunfan said with narrowed eyes. Brother Dante, how can you do this? Anyway, you said I was bragging. Stingy guy, isn't it okay if I'm wrong? Xia frowned slightly. Forget it, I'll forgive you this time. Ji Yunfan smiled and waved his hand. Look at the barbecue meat has turned golden yellow. Add some seasoning, and you can eat it, Ji Yunfan said, while sprinkling the seasoning on the barbecue meat. Wow, it smells really good. Xia narrowed her beautiful eyes slightly, took a deep breath, and said with an intoxicated look, okay, little girl, I'm afraid of you. Here you go. Ji Yunfan said as he handed the roasted meat in his hand to Xia. Xia took the roasted meat from Ji Yunfan's hand and took a big bite, but before she could swallow it, she was burned. It's so hot, so hot, so hot. Although she kept muttering that it was hot, she didn't mean to spit out the roasted meat in her mouth. No one is snatching it from you, little girl. You're so anxious that you don't behave like a lady. Ji Yunfan couldn't help but tease her. Bad guy, you only know how to bully me. Xia rolled her eyes at Ji Yunfan, but she didn't mean to put down the roasted meat skewers. Good intentions are really not rewarded. I kindly invited you to eat roasted meat skewers, but you actually said this to me. You are really a little girl who repays kindness with enmity. Ji Yunfan fanned the remaining roasted meat skewers in his hand with his left hand, and seeing that the temperature had dropped, he took a light bite. I'm really disappointed with your performance against the sashimi wind leopard today, especially Berkeley. I don't know what he was thinking at that time. He had no sense of crisis at all. As a frontline knight, if I hadn't noticed you, you would have been injured by the sashimi wind leopard. At the same time, everyone gathered around the campfire. Ogden Rodney frowned slightly and said to everyone, seeming to be very dissatisfied with everyone's performance today. The group looked submissive and seemed to be listening very attentively, but their eyes would occasionally glance at Ji Yunfan's barbecue, and a few people couldn't help swallowing their saliva. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230, A Rich Harvest. To be honest, in this world, the development of eating really makes Ji Yunfan disagree. Compared with the era in which Ji Yunfan lives, the gap is definitely not a little bit. In addition to boiling, stewing, and burning, there is no seasoning. Now Ji Yunfan shows a little bit of his skills, and immediately makes these people drool. Listening to Ogden Rodney's scolding, Ji Yunfan couldn't help but look at Ogden Rodney again. This guy's indeed a good educator. Even he was shocked by Ogden Rodney's momentum now. Here I must praise Baron Dante. Although he is not as old as you, he is not panicked when encountering danger. If you can be as calm as him, I will be relieved. Ji Yunfan didn't expect that she would become a role model in the eyes of others all of a sudden, but she was not very happy about being a role model in the eyes of others. It seems that several people in the company have been hostile to him. Ogden Rodney's conscious and unconscious words have aroused their jealousy. Millimeters, why do I feel like I'm being burned at the stake? Ji Yunfan smiled bitterly in his heart. Okay, let's stop here. We will encounter more dangers later. I hope you won't be so careless. Let's start dinner now. Ogden Rodney taught everyone a lesson for a while, and he was actually tempted by the smell of Ji Yunfan's roasted meat, and he couldn't stand it. To be honest, he had been walking all day today, and he had been eating some simple dried meat and water to fill his stomach. Now there was such a delicious food, and he really couldn't stand it, but he was embarrassed to ask Ji Yunfan for a share of the meat. Chewing the tasteless dried meat, and smelling the aroma of Ji Yunfan's roasted meat, everyone couldn't stand it. Brother Dante, what are you eating? A young man in the team looked at Ji Yunfan eagerly. Isn't this roasted meat? Ji Yunfan said innocently. I know you are eating roasted meat. Is it delicious? The young man looked at Ji Yunfan eating roasted meat in big mouthfuls, and couldn't help swallowing his saliva. Brother Dante, there is an old saying on the Kuska continent, which is to rely on parents at home, and rely on friends outside. Don't you think this saying makes a lot of sense? Grandpa Ogden, this is yours. Brother, this piece is yours, and other brothers who want to eat it can come here. Yunfan had a strange smile on his face, and he cut the roast meat directly into pieces, and said to everyone, "Good brother, be loyal, you will be my brother of Ceylon from now on." The young man patted Yunfan's shoulder with excitement. Yunfan couldn't help shaking his head, thinking in his heart, "I bought you with just a meal of roast meat." Brother Dante, you are really good, this roast meat is really delicious. Zaya kept eating the roast meat, and rolled her red lips with her sweet tongue, praising it again and again. That kind of lovable look made Yunfan's heart flutter. How old is this little girl? If she grows up a little more, she will become a popular person. Not bad, it's delicious. Dante is really good at it. Ogden Rodney also smiled and praised repeatedly. In the blink of an eye, he had finished most of the large piece of barbecue. After hesitating for a moment, Berkeley finally couldn't resist the temptation of barbecue, and walked towards Yunfan. To be honest, Berkeley was in a very tangled mood at the moment. Seeing Berkeley coming, Yunfan deliberately distributed the remaining barbecue to everyone. "I'm sorry, Master Berkeley, it seems that your luck is not very good. The barbecue I cooked has been shared by everyone." Although Yunfan said sorry, he really didn't mean to be embarrassed at all. "Are you kidding me, you bastard?" Berkeley glared at Yunfan angrily. Yunfan pretended to be innocent, and said with a silly smile, "Oh, how is this possible? You just have bad luck." At %, and Berkeley took a deep breath, looked at Yunfan fiercely, and walked towards the river. Late at night, Yunfan, Zaya and 2 others took on the patrol mission in the first half of the night. Ogden Rodney led a group of 20 people, and walked for 5 days. Along the way, the monsters they encountered became stronger and stronger, and they became more and more exhausted. Violent bears, shadow lizards, and later there were monsters that could release magic. From being able to deal with them calmly at the beginning to the thrilling experience in the past 2 days. These monsters are getting stronger and stronger, but not all of their meat is so delicious. This made Yunfan involuntarily think of a group of foodie hikers on Earth who wanted to try almost everything. The higher the level of the monster, the more valuable the things on it are, especially some monsters that can release high-level magic. The magic cores in their bodies are all of a very high level. These magic cores are very precious. This is a necessary material for making magic wands. According to different levels and familiarity, they can be sold at extremely high prices. The group had a good harvest. Almost everyone got a lot of magic cores. Yunfan even got a 4th level space magic core. This thing is very precious, and is no cheaper than other familiar 6th level magic cores. In addition to the magic cores, the furs of these monsters are also very valuable. They can be used to make magic scrolls. The value of all these things added up has exceeded the expectations of several people. But the purpose of their trip is not this. After these few days of travel, everyone has made a lot of progress. Facing the monsters, they will no longer be so panicked without any ability to fight back. However, we are about to enter the tomb of the demigod, so you must not take it lightly. Ogden Rodney was obviously in a good mood. Although the tomb of the demigod is not a secret, it is not so easy to get benefits from the tomb of the demigod. Along the way, Yunfan has been observing everyone. Some people are smiling, but hiding their knives, and some are silent but sincere, but almost everyone has grown up. From the previous panic to the later calmness, Yunfan saw it clearly. Because of several early warnings, Yunfan's opinions were sometimes adopted by everyone. Because of his cultivation of the Green Emperor's fighting spirit, Yunfan's senses were much sharper than everyone else's. In the subsequent march, Yunfan's early warnings also played a big role. Yunfan's mental power had reached a very subtle level, and his detection range even reached 5 kilometers. No one could figure out what was going on. Chapter 231 The Mystery of Demigod. In recent days, Ogden Rodney had secretly examined Yunfan's body carefully, but naturally found nothing, and finally had to give up. Although he always felt that his mental power was very secretive and could never be discovered by Yunfan, the real situation was not so. When his mental power first scanned Yunfan's body, Yunfan had discovered it, but Yunfan had always pretended not to know. The more Ogden Rodney couldn't find out the reason, the more curious he became, and he was a little depressed and puzzled. In the past few days, Yunfan's early warnings in the cooking of delicious barbecues have unknowingly improved Yunfan's status. In addition to Berkeley, Yunfan would cook barbecue from time to time to improve everyone's life, but every time he didn't have Berkeley, which made him have no good attitude towards Yunfan. Even the guy who was on the same nose with Berkeley at the beginning began to try to get along well with Yunfan. "Grandpa, when can we get to the tomb of the demigod?" Zaya couldn't help asking. After hearing Zaya's words, Ogden Rodney frowned slightly and was silent for a moment before sighing and saying, "The map in my hand only records this place. Although many people have already reached the tomb of the demigod, the true location of the tomb of the demigod is still a mystery. It seems that there are some requirements. Only those who meet the requirements can enter it and then accept the trial. Only those who pass the trial can obtain the inheritance. We don't know where the tomb of the demigod is exactly now. Now you should all feel that the monsters we encounter are getting stronger and stronger. Several people have been injured in the past few days, and even a 6th level monster has appeared. If we go deeper and a monster of level 7 or above appears, I'm afraid I won't be able to protect your safety. Grandpa Ogden, we have come here. Are we going to give up halfway? The temptation of the tomb of the demigod is too great. None of the 20 people who accompanied him wanted to go back. Have you really thought about it?" Ogden Rodney asked this, and the others were a little stunned and began to think. They weighed the pros and cons again and again. Some of the less courageous ones were already hesitant. "Why don't we go back now? We have gained a lot this time anyway. The so-called secret of becoming a god is just a legend. Maybe there is not even the tomb of demigod in the silent forest." Some of the braver ones had different opinions. How could there be no tomb of demigod in the silent forest? Have you forgotten how that guy fought back? He went from a waste despised by everyone to an existence we look up to. But many people have come to the silent forest to explore the existence of the tomb of demigod, but in the end they never went back. You have to pay for what you want. What I mean is that we continue. With Lord Ogden here, as long as we pay more attention, it shouldn't be a problem. Just think about it. If we really find the tomb of demigod, our status in the family will be different. When it comes to the status of the family, a few timid guys are also somewhat tempted. Even a few guys who initially opposed nodded and said hesitantly, "Yes, many of us are not direct descendants, and our status in the family is very low. If we can really get the secret of the tomb of the demigod, the location of the tomb of the demigod is still uncertain, and we don't know if it really exists. But we are really unwilling to go back like this." After everyone discussed this, in the end, they decided to explore in the silent forest again. If they really can't find it, then leave. To be honest, no matter what you plan, I will take Zaya to continue looking, Ogden Rodney said in a very firm tone. Yunfan looked at Ogden Rodney with some confusion. Ogden Rodney had a deep affection for Zaya. It is said that he would never let his granddaughter encounter danger. Is there any interest that he doesn't know about? Grandpa, otherwise we should leave. Don't look for the tomb of the demigod, Zaya said in an uncharacteristic way. Grandpa Ogden, can you tell me what this is all about? Yunfan asked. Of course I have my reasons. What is going on? Yunfan said, casting his eyes on several people not far away. Your sister Zaya has a very strange disease. If she doesn't get treatment, she may not live long. One of the people he was traveling with said after a moment of hesitation. But what does this have to do with whether or not the tomb of the demigod can be found? Yunfan asked puzzled. Lord Ogden, I have seen in an ancient book that the description of this strange disease can find a piece of earth fire, and using the earth fire to remove the hair and wash the marrow of the patient can cure this disease. It is said that there is an earth fire in this tomb of the demigod. I didn't expect it to be like this. The little girl must have suffered a lot in the past. Yunfan looked at Zaya with pity, who seemed to be carefree. Zaya didn't expect that someone would tell Yunfan about his situation. He looked at Yunfan timidly. For some reason, there were some things he really didn't want Yunfan to know. Come on, everyone, you can eat now. This is a dish I cooked with special seasonings. It's definitely something you haven't eaten before. Ji Yunfan chuckled and called out to Xia, as if nothing had happened. Xia paused for a moment, then rushed over happily and took the food prepared by Ji Yunfan without caring about his manners. Everyone deliberately forgot about the unpleasant things. If possible, I really hope I can eat the food cooked by Brother Dante for the rest of my life, Xia said with some sadness. Don't worry, it will definitely work. This time we will definitely be able to find the tomb of the demigod and cure your illness. Ji Yunfan forced a smile. To be honest, I really don't want Grandpa to take risks for me. In the dead of night, the bright moonlight sprinkled on the silent forest. In a few simple tents, the large army was already asleep, and a few people were resisting the sleepiness and shouldering the heavy responsibility of standing guard. Ji Yunfan stretched slightly and walked out of the tent. Boy, why don't you go to sleep? Ogden Rodney asked in confusion when he saw Ji Yunfan walk out of the tent. I can't sleep. I don't have a strong sense of security, and I'm not used to leaving my safety in the hands of others. Ji Yunfan smiled and shook his head. Chapter 232 Test. Really cautious. Silently, Ji Yunfan slowly moved away from the tent where everyone was and strolled in the shadow of the towering tree. In the gap of the tree shade, Ji Yunfan was as agile and fast as a cheetah. After a while, Ji Yunfan was away from everyone's tent and walked a certain distance to the west. Ji Yunfan stopped and looked around. It was quiet and no one was around. Then he took out the space magic core from the space ring. He first carefully observed the structure of the magic core. After thinking for a moment, he took out the shadow dagger from the space ring and carefully carved on the space magic core. With a thought, the skeleton warrior, holding the alloy bone knife, suddenly appeared in the void. Now no one's alloy bones seemed to be more majestic and completely integrated with the night, like a moon in the dark. Brother, what are you going to do? Are you going to embed the space magic core into the skeleton warrior? Sakadin asked incredulously. You guessed it right. I really have this plan. Ji Yunfan smiled. Are you crazy? You actually want to embed the magic core in the skeleton warrior? Sakadin said in disbelief. Why, don't you think this is interesting? Interesting? You are simply hopeless. Sakadin didn't know how to describe Ji Yunfan. Ji Yunfan ignored Sakadin and continued to carve on the space magic core carefully. Crazy. Why did I choose to possess you in the first place? Ji Yunfan opened a fist-sized hole on the chest of the skeleton warrior number 1, and then Ji Yunfan carefully embedded the space magic core into it, and then he blocked the hole with alloy material. After a careful observation, he found that there was no problem. Ji Yunfan picked up the shadow dagger and started to carve on the alloy material. It's okay. Ji Yunfan smiled and nodded. I just don't know how effective it is. Ji Yunfan thought for a moment and then ran in a farther direction. As Ji Yunfan moved quickly, the skeleton warriors also kept running, and sometimes they would suddenly appear in another position. Magic flash. The skeleton warriors flew past, and soon they were running side by side with Ji Yunfan in the silent forest. A cat-headed monster suddenly appeared in front of them. The cat-headed monster was biting a wild boar-shaped monster corpse. The cat-headed monster seemed to feel the movement, and its wings flickered. Its blood-red eyes looked around. Skeleton warrior number 1 suddenly appeared in front of the cat-headed monster, followed by an alloy bone knife, shining with a sharp cold light, suddenly rising in the night. The alloy bone knife drew an arc in the void and suddenly stabbed the cat-headed monster. At the same time, Ji Yunfan leaped and appeared in the dark shade of the tree. In the dark night sky, Ji Yunfan's figure suddenly drew a faint blue light, which looked extremely charming. The cat-headed monster suddenly let out a shrill scream. Its eyes were full of disbelief, and it was killed before it could react. Ji Yunfan looked at the cat-headed monster's head that was directly pierced by the alloy bone knife, and nodded with satisfaction. After the transformation, the skeleton warrior mastered the elementary space magic flash, and even the space blade. On the other side, the skeleton warrior used the alloy to cut open the cat-headed monster's head and took out the magic core from it. A few days after using the space magic core to transform the skeleton warrior, Ji Yunfan would act alone every night to test the combat effectiveness of the transformed skeleton warrior. The transformed skeleton warrior seemed to be more flexible and even began to avoid damage. Sometimes he even cooperated with Yunfan tacitly and encountered some 5th level monsters and could easily solve them. During the test, Yunfan not only tried to cast space magic, but also repeatedly practiced fighting spirit and life magic, and always received unexpected results at critical moments. Even Yunfan himself didn't know how much his real strength was. He even vaguely felt that, even if he encountered an ordinary 7th level magic beast, he had a certain degree of confidence and could hunt it. He was actually excited and expectant in his heart, as if he enjoyed this process very much. After coming to this world, he was walking on thin ice every day. This was the first time he felt that he could control his own destiny. I have been suppressed for too long. Yunfan thought self-deprecatingly, took the harvested magic core from the hands of the transformed skeleton warrior No. 1, patted the skeleton warrior's golden alloy skull, and said with a smile, "Let's go, we can go back." The alloy bone knife in the alloy skeleton warrior's hand was slightly raised, as if to say that he understood. There were two strange soul fires flashing in the empty pupils. Yunfan vaguely felt a faint emotional fluctuation. When Yunfan looked at the alloy skeleton warrior again, the faint emotional fluctuation seemed to disappear again. Yunfan was confident that he was not wrong. Could it be that my skeleton warrior will recover the memory of his previous life? Yunfan thought to himself. This should not be the recovery of the memory of his previous life. Theoretically, any object in this world may produce a new soul. In this case, a new soul should be produced, and the new soul may have fragments of memory from his previous life. Sakadan said, but these are just theoretical. I have never seen a 1st level undead like the skeleton warrior produce a new soul before. It's true that around you, any strange thing can happen. Can I take this as your praise for me? Yunfan said with a wicked smile. If you think so, then take it as such. Halfway through, Yunfan sent the alloy skeleton warrior back to the small world of the undead. Seeing that he was about to return to the tent, Yunfan couldn't help but slow down his pace and walked into the shadow of the trees without rushing. It was already the second half of the night, and the sentries at the tent had been replaced by Zaire and 2 other boys. Zaire half closed his eyes, looking sleepy, and it was obvious that he was taking the opportunity to secretly rest. Fortunately, the 2 boys who were on duty with Zaire understood the importance of the night watch. Although their eyelids were drooping, they still forced themselves to open their eyes and kept patrolling around. When they heard Yunfan's light footsteps approaching, they immediately looked in that direction nervously. Who's there? Francis, it's me. Yunfan slowly walked out from the shade of the tree and whispered to the night watchman. Chapter 233 Orkwolf Rider. After seeing clearly that the person coming was Yunfan, he breathed a sigh of relief, but said with a slightly complaining tone, Dante, you don't know, it's very scary to appear suddenly, but it's so late. Where have you been? I don't know, running around at night is very dangerous. Nothing, I went to find a secluded place to experiment with magic. I have learned a lot from following Grandpa Ogden these days, so I found a quiet place at night to practice. Yunfan smiled and explained softly. Brother Dante, I didn't expect you to be so studious. After we leave the silent forest, let's find a place to compete. The night patrol young man said with a smile. At this moment, several shadows suddenly appeared under the coverage of Yunfan's mental power. Yunfan's face changed, and he said in a low voice, something is approaching, but this time the shape does not look like a monster, but more like a human, but it may also be a subhuman. After Yunfan said this, the young man on night patrol also changed his face slightly and looked at Yunfan in panic. Are you sure something is approaching? Of course. The young man on night patrol hurriedly pulled Yunfan and walked quickly towards Ogden Rodner's tent, saying as he walked, in the depths of this silent forest, there are all kinds of races, and these races are not as kind as humans. Even some humans like us are not simple characters when they can come here. Sometimes they will even have murderous intentions for a high-level magic core. We'd better be prepared early. When they just arrived in front of Ogden Rodner's tent, the door of Ogden Rodner's tent suddenly opened and someone walked out. Grandpa Ogden. You don't have to say it, I already know. Everyone get up. Dante, Jessica, you too. Wake everyone up and prepare for the battle. It may be dangerous. Ogden Rodney said in a very serious tone. Many people had actually heard Ogden Rodney's shouts, and many people were startled and woke up. They hurriedly got out of the tent. Some people didn't even bother to put on clothes. From Ogden Rodney's voice, they all sensed the danger coming and became alert. A burst of hurried footsteps approached the crowd. Ogden Rodney frowned and said in a deep voice, "Such rapid footsteps should not be human. What on earth could it be?" Ogden Rodney frowned and thought hard for a moment, and suddenly a flash of inspiration came to him, saying, "Everyone should be careful. We should have encountered the Orc-Wolf Riders in the Silent Forest." When the words Orc-Wolf Riders came out of Ogden Rodney's mouth, everyone was stunned. Several girls shuddered with fear on their faces. The boys were also startled, and Ogden Rodney asked everyone to quickly form a defensive formation. Sentences of magic spells were constantly uttered from the magician's mouth, and the warriors on the outer layer had already protected the magician. Sure enough, after a while, with the brisk trampling sound, several green-faced and fanged orcs riding green wolves appeared in everyone's sight. Orc-Wolf Riders are very brutal jungle predators. A dozen Orc-Wolf Riders can be considered a tribe or a unit. These Orc-Wolf Riders are cruel and like to plunder. They are all born robbers. They know how to use various equipment, and their bodies are strong and hard. Their close-range attack power is very powerful and has great lethality. However, what scares everyone the most is not the strength of the Orc-Wolf Riders, but the evil habits of the Orc-Wolf Riders. Perhaps it is because of the harsh living environment of the Orc-Wolf Riders that they not only eat people, but also do not let go of their dead companions. Moreover, when they encounter humans during their plundering process, they will not only take away everything, but also catch humans as food for captive breeding, just like humans raise cattle and sheep. Sometimes death is not terrible, but what is terrible is waiting for death. Yunfan and other mages were protected in the center in a circle. Yunfan's mental power moved, and 10 alloy skeleton warriors were summoned by Yunfan and directly used as meat shields on the periphery. The pressure on the warriors was reduced a lot in an instant. "Start fighting," Ogden Rodney shouted in a deep voice, and he had taken out the magic wand in his hand and raised it. This was the first time that Yunfan saw Ogden Rodney take out his magic staff. The dragon-like body of the staff was engraved with mysterious patterns, and a bright red gem was suspended on the top of the staff. Long staff. 4 words suddenly appeared in Yunfan's mind. Yunfan had seen this staff in the library. It was the weapon of the Zhou Empire's national magic saint Kaza, before he became a saint. It can increase the magic power of fire magic below the 9th level by 40%. More than a dozen Orc-Wolf Riders made strange noises from their mouths while moving. Under the direct pointing of the strongest and tallest orc, the orcs suddenly accelerated and rushed over here. Eternal night decay. However, before these Orc-Wolf Riders approached, Yunfan's magic Eternal Night had been completed, and the speed of the Orc-Wolf Riders was actually reduced by Yunfan. However, the bodies of the Orc-Wolf Riders were extremely tough. Yunfan's magic fell on the Orc-Wolf Riders, which only made them scream in pain, and slowed down their speed, but could not cause any damage to their bodies. The dark element corrupted their bodies, dissolving the strength of the Orc-Wolf Riders bit by bit. The Orc-Wolf Riders were injured one after another under Yunfan's interference, but none of them died. They still rushed in, and began to attack. Yunfan had already held the shadow dagger in his hand, and was ready to fight against the Orc-Wolf Riders who broke through at any time. Warriors and Ant Kid, pull the monsters. Mages start attacking. After the Orc-Wolf Riders approached, Ogden Rodney said solemnly. As soon as Ogden Rodney finished speaking, Yunfan had already begun to command his transformed skeleton warriors to attack those Orc-Wolf Riders. To be able to live in the Silent Forest, the orcs themselves are not of low level. Orcs are different from ordinary people. They are tall and strong, with thick skin and flesh and extremely high defense. The attacks of skeleton warriors have extremely limited damage to the Orc-Wolf Riders. These damn Orc-Wolf Riders are really troublesome. They are so powerful. Yunfan saw several modified skeleton warriors on the periphery fall down. Although those Orc-Wolf Riders were injured, they still had extraordinary combat effectiveness. He couldn't help feeling a little annoyed. Chapter 234. Cultivating both magic and martial arts? We must hold on. Don't let them rush over. Otherwise the mage will die if he faces the orc wolf riders in close combat. Ogden Rodney shouted, extremely worried. Fire explosion. As he chanted his magic spell, balls of orange flames appeared out of thin air. Ogden Rodney pointed his magic staff at an orc wolf rider, and finally a ball of flame hit the head of the orc wolf rider, which exploded all of a sudden. The headless orc wolf rider stood there and swayed for a few times before falling down powerlessly. After an orc wolf rider was killed by Ogden Rodney, the remaining orc wolf riders seemed to suddenly go crazy. Two of the orc wolf riders holding stone spears seemed to be insulted. They screamed and suddenly thrust out the stone spears in their hands. The stone spear drew an arc in the air, and with the sound of whoosh wind, it suddenly nailed a warrior. Death frightened everyone. What should we do? What should we do? Will these damned orc wolf riders eat us? Will they keep us captive? Oh my god, these damned orc wolf riders are so fast and strong, and their skin and flesh are so strong. Don't they have any weaknesses? Our attacks are completely ineffective. Damn it, I want to go back. I want to go back. It's over. We are done for. I should have gone back that day. Fear occupied everyone's heart. The shadow of death. Negative complaints suddenly called out from the mouths of these companions. Don't panic. Seeing that everyone was so negative, Ogden Rodney's gloomy face was terrible. Explosive flame meteor shower. After the spell was completed, Ogden Rodney pointed his finger at the group of orc wolf riders. At this moment, Ogden Rodney could not exert the full power of the explosive flame. The orc wolf riders and their own soldiers were stuck together, and Ogden Rodney was still carefully controlling it. Although Ogden Rodney tried his best to control his own power, the power of the meteor shower was still extraordinary. Two violent explosions suddenly came from the side of the orc wolf rider and his own warriors. The four orc wolf riders who were already wounded, and the warriors who were fighting against him were affected and suddenly flew backwards. Damn. Ogden Rodney felt as if his hands and feet were bound. With a few clicks, the orc wolf riders who were blown away were completely finished. Although his warriors did not die, they were also greatly injured and had no combat power. Yunfan had also heard a little about the magic of explosive fire. He knew that only fire magicians above the 6th level could cast it. The power of this magic was different depending on the mana. The remaining orc wolf riders did not suffer much damage, but at this time they rushed over with stone spears in their hands, as if they were crazy, shouting strangely, Lord Ogden, my explosive fire magic has a large attack range, and it is easy to cause accidental injuries. If you use other magic, you can't quickly deal with these orc wolf riders, so you must hold on for a while. Ogden Rodney's face has become very ugly. After Ogden Rodney said this, everyone was even more panicked, and their faces turned pale. Several people had already wanted to retreat. The orc wolf riders were originally known for their speed. Compared with them, they were several levels faster. Especially when everyone was panicking, their speed could not catch up with the orc wolf riders. Zaya, be careful. Danger. In the panic, everyone saw that the orc wolf rider had already flown towards Zaya from behind, and they couldn't help but scream in fear. Zaya heard the reminders of several people, turned around and saw that the stone spear of the orc wolf rider had stabbed directly at him. Although the stone spear was not sharp, it gave people a sense of heaviness, shining with a cold light, and the whirring sound showed how powerful the force of this stab was. The haze of death made Zaya's pretty face pale and bloodless, and her beautiful legs suddenly lost their strength and trembled involuntarily. She watched the stone spear grow bigger and bigger in her pupils. Zaya suddenly felt helpless, but at the same time she felt relieved. With a ping pong sound, sparks flew. Zaya's eyes were wide open, and she looked ahead in a daze. At some point, a figure appeared in her eyes. Although the figure was not majestic, it looked extremely majestic in her eyes. Yunfan's shadow dagger had collided with the stone spear. There were some metallic sparks at the place where the stone spear and the shadow dagger collided. The stone spear was actually broken into two halves. At this time, Yunfan was surrounded by green light, and his face was a little ferocious as he stared at the orc wolf rider. Dante, it's actually Dante. Damn, isn't he a magician? How can he have fighting spirit? MD, he's actually practicing both magic and martial arts. This, isn't it said, that people who practice both magic and martial arts are useless? How can he be so powerful? Several people exclaimed, and Xia was also a little dumbfounded, looking at Ji Yunfan in a strange way. She never thought that Ji Yunfan was not just a magician, and his fighting spirit level was not lower than his magic level. Everyone stared at Ji Yunfan in amazement. Ji Yunfan grabbed the broken stone spear with his left hand and said, "Why are you still in a daze? Go, do you really want to die?" Several guys who liked Xia also cursed at this time, secretly cursing Ji Yunfan, this lucky guy. Ji Yunfan's heart was moved. He glanced at Xia with the corner of his eyes and said awkwardly, "Don't blame me, Sister Xia. You beast, you're so ungrateful." Xia was furious. Just as she was about to speak, she suddenly noticed that there was another orc wolf rider on the left. The stone axe had already hit Ji Yunfan on the head. She couldn't help but remind him quickly, "Brother Dante, be careful." Ji Yunfan's face sank slightly. He turned around abruptly. A stone axe thicker than his body was hitting him. Ji Yunfan reflexively took a half step back to avoid it, but he quickly realized that if he fell back now, Xia behind him would become the target of the orc wolf rider's attack. Ji Yunfan gritted his teeth slightly and held the shadow dagger in his hand. To be honest, the shadow dagger requires lightness, and his current action is exactly the opposite of the use of a shadow dagger. But now he can't care so much. He raised his hands and, with a whistling sound, crashed into the stone axe hit by the orc wolf rider. Chapter 235, Killing Weakness. "Sister Xia, please leave here quickly," Ji Yunfan said with a righteous face. Berkeley looked at Ji Yunfan with a shocked face. He originally thought that if he fought with Ji Yunfan in close combat, he would definitely be able to kill him. Now it seems that it was just wishful thinking. At this time, Ji Yunfan, after using his fighting spirit to resist the orc wolf rider twice, felt that there was a surge of hot blood in his body. He wanted to fully burst out the power in his body. A faint murderous intention also rose from Ji Yunfan's heart, making Ji Yunfan involuntarily want to smash the orc wolf rider in front of him into meat dregs. However, reason told Ji Yunfan that if he continued like this, he might become a bloodthirsty demon. As soon as Xia left, Ji Yunfan had no scruples when he attacked. The fighting spirit in his body started to circulate rapidly. Under the blessing of the shadow dagger, no matter what was in front of him, he could destroy it. Although the orc wolf rider in front of Ji Yunfan had a high IQ, he still couldn't understand why Ji Yunfan, with such a thin body, could have such a strong power. Oh my god. Dante actually rushed towards the orc wolf rider, and his speed was no worse than that of the orc wolf rider. Could it be that Dante's fighting spirit level has broken through to the 5th level? A young man exclaimed, with an incredible look on his face. As soon as this sentence came out, everyone nodded in agreement, and all took it for granted. Even Ogden Rodney was puzzled. Although he knew that Ji Yunfan must be hiding something, he didn't expect it to be hidden so deeply. At this time, Ji Yunfan was like an elf in the dark night. The shadow dagger in his hand danced vividly, as fast as lightning. Ordinary people could only see a residual image. Then his feet were full of wind, and the shadow dagger made a whirring sound in the void. Ji Yunfan suddenly swung it from bottom to top, making an arc, and stabbed the waist of the orc wolf rider. Seeing the danger approaching, the confusion on the face of the orc wolf rider turned into infinite rage. Following the same action just now, he smashed towards Ji Yunfan again, as if he wanted to use absolute strength to force Ji Yunfan back. With the bonus of fighting spirit, Ji Yunfan nimbly slid to the left and easily dodged the attack of the orc wolf rider. The shadow dagger did not stop at all, and stabbed the waist of the orc wolf rider fiercely. The orc wolf rider let out a miserable cry, and fell to the ground in an instant, deader than dead. At this time, a tall orc wolf rider suddenly appeared in front of everyone. The mount under him was even more amazing. Judging from its shape alone, it was twice as big as the wolf-shaped monsters at the beginning. Everyone be careful, this is the leader of the orc wolf riders, and the mount of this orc wolf rider's leader is a storm wolf. The storm wolf with the wind and dark attributes can definitely be called a ghost in the dark. Ogden Rodney's face was terribly gloomy, as if water could drip out. The orc wolf rider's leader alone has reached the 7th level, which is equivalent to his own strength. If he fights with the orc wolf rider's leader, The chance of winning is only 50 to 50, not to mention that next to the Orc Wolf Riders leader, there are 2 6th level Orc Wolf Riders generals, ready to make a move. A 7th level Orc Wolf Riders leader and 2 6th level Orc Wolf Riders generals. Good guys, it seems that you have won the prize. If you continue like this, you will be wiped out. Sakadan's somewhat gloating voice emerged in Ji Yunfan's mind. Asshole, it's already this late, how can you still be in the mood to joke? Ji Yunfan said in a low voice, aren't you afraid that if I die, you will be buried with me in the future? Yunfan, have you already said it? Good people don't live long, and evil will last for thousands of years. You are not the kind of person who can be easily killed, not to mention that, if it really doesn't work, can't you run away? With your current attainments in space magic, you are absolutely invincible under the saint level. If I leave now, what will happen to Sister Zaya and the others? Ji Yunfan said in a low voice. You like to mess around with women wherever you go, and one day you will die at the hands of a woman. Sakadan curled his lips and said with some disdain. Do the Orc Wolf Cavalry have any weaknesses? If we have to talk about weaknesses, then the Orc Wolf Cavalry does have a big weakness. Their mounts are both their advantage and their disadvantage. With this blue wolf mount, they possess extraordinary speed. If their mounts are killed first, and they lose their speed advantage, their strength will be less than 70% left. This is indeed a disadvantage, but it is not that easy to kill their mounts. Huge crashing sounds continued to be heard from the clashes. The common weapons in the hands of many soldiers were already overwhelmed, and were all smashed in the collision with the Orc Wolf Cavalry. The accident happened at this moment. A more gorgeous alloy skeleton warrior, like a real night elf, flashed forward in the night. The Orc Wolf Rider leader's mount was the Storm Wolf. It suddenly let out a hoarse wail, and a stream of air spurted out of its nostrils. Then it ran out of control, and headed not far away. The Storm Wolf was running too fast. The Orc Wolf Rider leader on the back of the Storm Wolf had no time to react. He was thrown out horizontally, flying 10 meters in the air, and fell heavily to the ground. The Orc Wolf Rider leader stood up from the ground, and looked at the alloy skeleton warrior in disbelief. He never thought that he would fall on a skeleton warrior. Just a moment ago, the alloy skeleton warrior flashed in front of the Storm Wolf. Before it could react, a space slash cut its throat. The crowd who were planning to flee from here quickly, when they saw that Ji Yunfan's skeleton warrior number 1 had such terrifying power that it could directly kill the 6th order Storm Wolf, were all stunned and stood there, staring at Ji Yunfan in amazement. It was not until this moment that they realized the truth. As geniuses, they were not even as good as the skeleton warriors summoned by Ji Yunfan. Jealousy, helplessness, joy, all kinds of emotions filled their hearts at once, and they looked at Ji Yunfan with extremely complicated eyes. You have to know that their hearts are very contradictory at the moment. On the one hand, they hope that Ji Yunfan will be strong and lead them out of the predicament, but on the other hand, they don't want Ji Yunfan to be too powerful. Perhaps because his mount was killed, the leader of the Orc Wolf Riders who lost his mount was like crazy. Chapter 236 Battle Escalation. He waved the stone stick in his hand randomly, and even his fellow Orc Wolf cavalrymen did not dare to approach him easily, fearing that they would be attacked by the furious leader. The leader of the Orc Wolf cavalrymen waving the stone stick was wearing animal skins with his arms exposed. His veins were bulging like a hibernating dragon. At this moment, the expression of the leader of the Orc Wolf cavalrymen was ferocious and crazy, with a desperate madness. At this moment, Ji Yunfan's fighting spirit was flowing in his body, and he felt a refreshing pleasure in the burst of power. He picked up the stone axe at will. At this moment, he actually chose to bear it hard. After resisting it again and again, Ji Yunfan not only did not feel exhausted, but his energy became more and more vigorous. This was the first time that Ji Yunfan was so crazy since he came to this world. He has always been the image of a handsome man. He would only fight back when others targeted him. Everyone has a warlike gene in their body. In the past, he just hid these genes. Now he has enough strength and can no longer be as cautious as before. Several strange cries came from the mouth of the ferocious looking leader of the Orc Wolf Riders. After a sudden attack, Ji Yunfan's body retreated several steps, but he did not suffer much. This kid is simply a monster. Ogden Rodney didn't know what words to use to describe Ji Yunfan at this moment. The characteristic of the King Di Daoqi is endless, and the characteristic of the Shura Daoqi is that the more you fight, the braver you become. Under the addition of these two Daoqi, Ji Yunfan feels that his strength increases a little with each collision. Ji Yunfan didn't expect that his Shura Daoqi would also start to operate uncontrollably. Shura represents killing rather than despair. Ji Yunfan suddenly felt a sense of sudden enlightenment and felt that he would never let that kind of killing consciousness control himself again. Fight. Under Ji Yunfan's sudden momentum, the leader of the Orc Wolf Riders actually staggered and retreated involuntarily. The originally fierce attack and huge force, with the collision with Ji Yunfan, the power became weaker and weaker. Fighting to support fighting, swallowing the heaven and the earth, is the second characteristic of Shura's fighting spirit. Oh my god, is this still the Dante who can grill meat? A young man exclaimed, shaking his head in disbelief. In the future, I don't plan to be his enemy. He is too scary. Another young man also showed a scared expression, muttering to himself. He was very happy that he did not listen to Berkela's nonsense and make things difficult for Ji Yunfan. Zaya looked excited, clenched his fists tightly, and screamed loudly from time to time. Awesome, my brother Dante. Berkeley and his friends who had a grudge against Ji Yunfan ignored him and showed a timid expression. They looked at Ji Yunfan with a little fear and hesitation. They no longer thought they could beat Ji Yunfan. This battle is really hearty. Life should be simple, rough, and cool. The breakthrough of the state of mind, the past repressed emotions were swept away. Ji Yunfan felt that the two kinds of fighting spirit in his body were running more and more smoothly, and he couldn't help but roar to the sky. The leader of the Orc Wolf Riders was actually scared. He felt that the man in front of him was not someone he could defeat. He actually threw away his anger at the death of his mount and chose to run away. The defeat and escape of the leader of the Orc Wolf Riders caused chaos among the remaining Orc Wolf Riders, and they suddenly lost their previous fighting spirit. At this moment, Ji Yunfan had already shown his interest in fighting. He followed closely behind the leader of the Orc Wolf Riders who wanted to escape. He swung the thick stone axe suddenly. With a crack, one of the arms of the Orc Wolf Rider leader who was fleeing in a panic was chopped off. Then, a series of shrill screams came out from the mouth of the previously ferocious Orc Wolf Rider leader. The strong body of the Orc Wolf Rider leader had already fallen down, and blood splashed out of his body. At this moment, he was completely dead. The leader of the Orc Wolf Riders actually died like this? Almost everyone felt incredible and stared at Ji Yunfan standing there in a daze. We actually escaped death like this? This time it's really thanks to Dante. I really don't know how he practiced. His magic level is already so high. He has a very strange skeleton warrior and he even practices fighting spirit. I really don't know what else he can do. Now no one dares to ignore Ji Yunfan's existence. Everyone explored the silent forest for 2 days. Although they didn't find the existence of the half-body tomb, they still gained a lot, and it was worth the trip. Everyone, wait a minute, it seems that there is something going on. Ji Yunfan suddenly stopped and frowned slightly. What's wrong? Everyone looked at Ji Yunfan in confusion. Someone? How is it possible that there is someone? We haven't seen other people for several days. The possibility of meeting other people in the silent forest is almost zero. Could they come for the tomb of the gods? In that case, what should we do? Can you feel the strength of the people who come? Ogden Rodney suddenly asked with a serious face. Under the spiritual power, the moving figure gave Ji Yunfan a very familiar feeling. Feeling this wonderful feeling, Ji Yunfan couldn't help but frown slightly. But then more figures appeared under his spiritual power, and more figures seemed to be chasing the previous figure. What's wrong? Can't you feel it? Ogden Rodney's tone was slightly disappointed, but he soon forgot that disappointment behind his mind, and a slightly mocking smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Since when did he need to rely on a little guy? There must be no weaklings who can come here, so everyone must pay 100% attention to safety. The black shadow under the spiritual power was getting closer and closer to Ji Yunfan and the others. At this moment, even Ogden Rodney's spiritual power had captured their existence. It turned out to be him. When the first figure appeared in front of everyone, Ji Yunfan and Ogden Rodney couldn't help but exclaimed softly. The person who came was the black-robed young man who spent 2 billion gold coins to bid for the Dark Sage's notes at the Argaman auction house. The black-robed youth's clothes were all tattered, like a wandering beggar, which was very different from his cold and ruthless image at the auction. Following closely behind the black-robed youth was another group of people in black. Judging from their attire, these people should belong to a mercenary organization. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237 Hans Christopher. The Wild Mercenaries. Ogden Rodney muttered. What, Lord Ogden, you are not mistaken, are you? If it is really the Wild Mercenaries, then we are really in danger. A short-haired young man in the team said worriedly. The Wild Mercenaries? Although Yunfan did not know what kind of mercenaries the Wild Mercenaries were, he could tell from the conversation between the two that this mercenary group did not seem to have a very good reputation. Zibia, I really didn't expect you to know the Saint's notes and to chase me so far by any means. The young man in black robe stopped and turned back to say viciously. Who let you, a bastard, offend our Wild Mercenaries? I, Zibia, have not gotten what I want. You are so ignorant that you dare to snatch what I like at the auction. Who gave you the courage? Zibia sneered domineeringly. You are just bastards. Boy, you handed over the Saint's notes to us obediently, so that we could do it ourselves. Zibia continued. It is absolutely impossible for me to give up the notes of my clan. The black-robed youth said with a firm face. Hey, the Dark Saint Antonia Waters is actually your ancestor. I didn't expect to catch a big fish. After hearing the words of the black-robed youth, Zibia was excited. I have always had a question. I wonder if you can help me solve it. What is the reason? Why are you so interested in the notes left by my ancestors? If it is just the Saint's notes, a deputy leader like Zibia should not be lacking. Boy, it seems that you don't know the origin of your ancestors at all. I'm really sad for the Dark Saint Antonia Waters. Zibia shook his head jokingly. My ancestors' origins? The black-robed youth was slightly stunned. Does my ancestor have any other identities? You kid is now trapped in a jar. Then I will satisfy your curiosity and let the descendants of the Dark Saint Antonia Waters know his identity. Zibia said with a wicked smile. Have you heard of the legend of the Tomb of Demigods? What does this have to do with our group? The black-robed youth was even more puzzled at this time. What if I tell you that the teacher of the Dark Saint Antonia Waters is Hans Christopher, the owner of the Tomb of Demigods? Zibia said mysteriously, and it is said that in the notebook you got, there is a way to enter the Tomb of Demigods. What? Before the black-robed youth said anything, Ogden Rodney shouted loudly. Who dares to eavesdrop? Zibia's face changed drastically after hearing Ogden Rodney's call. He never thought that he would meet someone else in the silent forest, and this person happened to hear his secret. He would never let the secret spread. I didn't expect it to be you, Ogden Rodney, the exploding Mad King. Looking at Ogden Rodney who came out of the dark, Zibia frowned deeply, revealing a trace of regret in his expression. Zibia, I didn't expect you to hide so deeply. The Madflow mercenary group is worthy of being the second mercenary group in the Empire. It can even find out such secret information. Ogden Rodney, how about we cooperate? After finding the demigod's curtain, we will each rely on our own abilities. Zibia weighed the pros and cons slightly, and then said reluctantly, you let me participate so easily? Ogden Rodney was a little unbelievable after hearing what Zibia said. You old guy is not weak. I'm afraid you will never give up the tomb of the demigod. Zibia looked at Zaya meaningfully and said, since our goals are the same, why don't we cooperate? I'll protect him. Ogden Rodney hesitated for a moment, and finally pointed at the young man in black robes and said, thank you, Lord Ogden. The young man in black robe hurriedly thanked Ogden Rodney. You don't have to be like this. No matter what, I have ulterior motives towards you. Take out the notes of the Dark Saint Antonia Waters. We need to find some information from it. After we find it, we will return the notes to you. Ogden Rodney said in a deep voice. The young man in black robe hesitated for a moment, knowing that he had no choice now. He gritted his teeth, took out the notes of his ancestor, the Dark Saint Antonia Waters, from the space ring, and handed it directly to Ogden Rodney. Ogden Rodney took the notes, and started to read them. Zibia stood beside him, but did not say anything. Half a day later, Ogden Rodney had roughly flipped through the entire notebook, but he really didn't find anything useful. His brows frowned again involuntarily. Is this the information about the tomb of the demigod you said? The information about the tomb of the demigod is definitely here. If you found it so easily, do you think the owner of this notebook will still auction it? Zibia said calmly. What you said makes some sense. Are you confident that you can find the information about the tomb of the demigod in this notebook? If I didn't have any confidence, how could I come here from afar? Ogden Rodney looked at Zibia intently, trying to see from his face whether what he said was true or false. Ogden Rodney, since you have decided to cooperate with me, can't you trust me a little bit? Zibia shrugged slightly, pretending to be very aggrieved. However, Ogden Rodney was not a rookie who had just entered the world of martial arts, so he naturally couldn't be fooled by Zibia's poor performance. Tell me, how do you want me to trust you? Ogden Rodney said expressionlessly. How about you give me the notes for safekeeping? When we find the tomb of the demigod, I will return the notes to him according to the promise between you and him. Zibia glanced at the young man in black robe and said. Ogden Rodney did not answer directly, but cast his eyes on the young man in black robe. What do you think? The young man in black robe hesitated for a moment, and finally nodded helplessly. Lord Ogden, you will handle my ancestors' notes, but I don't trust this person. I still hope that the notes will be kept by you. Ogden Rodney couldn't help but glance at the young man in black robe. I will be responsible for getting your ancestors' notes back. Chapter 238 Friend Waters. The underground fire and the tomb of the demigods are too important to Ogden Rodney, otherwise he would not have made such a promise. The black-robed young man could not help but let out a long sigh of relief after hearing Ogden Rodney's promise. Compared with the untrustworthy Zibia, he was more willing to believe Ogden Rodney. No one knew that the black-robed young man actually had a very special ability, which was to be able to distinguish whether the other party was telling the truth or not through conversation. It was because of this ability that he was able to escape danger many times, but he never mentioned this ability to anyone. Boy, it seems that you look down on me. Zibia was very fierce and even unscrupulous in doing things, but he liked to hear flattery from others. The black-robed young man's actions were undoubtedly a slap in his face. I hope you haven't fallen into my hands alone, otherwise I will definitely make you live a life worse than death. Haha, do you know? The way you talk is very similar to those villains in night novels. The black-robed young man said with a smile without any fear. You are a little bastard. You don't know what's good for you. Don't think that I won't do anything to you just because someone is protecting you. After reaching the tomb of demigod, Zibia turned and walked towards his subordinates. Deputy Captain, why did you agree to cooperate with them? Aren't you going to share the things in the tomb of demigod with them? One of Zibia's subordinates asked in confusion. Do you think the tomb of demigod is so easy to enter? I'm just looking for some cannon fodder. Do you really think I'm afraid of him, Ogden Rodney? When he loses his usefulness, I will be the first one to not let him go. A cold light flashed in Zibia's eyes. The deputy commander is indeed wise and brave. Stop flattering me here and send someone to keep a close eye on that guy. If he is left alone, come back and tell me. At the same time, the young man in black robe also came to Ogden Rodney. Lord Ogden, why do you want to cooperate with them? The Wildflow mercenaries are demons who eat people without spitting out bones. You never know when they will stab you in the back. How can I not know this? Although he is now concerned about my strength, if we really fight, the best outcome for him and me is that both of us will suffer losses. But little guy, since I promised to protect you, I will do my best to protect you. Ogden Rodney said in a deep voice, and you must remember not to act alone. Although those guys have agreed on the surface, if they are given the opportunity, they will kill you without hesitation. By the way, I don't know your name yet. My name is Fran Waters. The last name is Waters. It seems that you are indeed the descendant of the Dark Saint Antonio Waters. In the next few days, the crowd did not look for the tomb of the demigods, but studied the saint's notes. The saint's notes rarely mentioned cultivation, and most of them were about the saint's daily life. No wonder the saint's notes were auctioned. This thing is not worth much at all. Yunfan looked at the contents of the saint's notes and shook his head. It was almost impossible to break through to the saint with the things. These days, anything that can be related to saints is almost expensive. And it seems that this is not the notes of the dark Saint Antonia Waters after she became a saint. Ogden Rodney explained with a smile. There is no secret in this note at all. Maybe that guy is talking nonsense. Yunfan curled his lips. Yunfan boy, there are indeed some problems with this notebook. Just as Yunfan was flipping through the notebook aimlessly, Sakadin's voice suddenly sounded in Yunfan's heart, which suddenly scared him. Are you saying that there is a problem with this notebook? What is the problem? Yunfan asked hurriedly. Use your mental power to check the cover again, Sakadin said. Yunfan nodded slightly, activated his mental power again, and gently swept across the cover of the notebook. There is nothing special about this. No, this thing is actually very special, but you just didn't find it. Sakadin, what do you mean by this? Why don't I understand it? Take out the shadow dagger. Sakadin continued. Out of trust in Sakadin, Yunfan took out the shadow dagger without thinking. What are you going to do? Fran Waters was shocked when he saw Yunfan's action and hurriedly tried to stop him. Cut the cover in the middle. What do you mean by cutting the cover in the middle? This. Don't hesitate. The secret is in the cover. Don't you want to save Zaya? Hearing this, Yunfan no longer hesitated and took action directly. What are you doing? This is a notebook of our ancestors. Under Fran Waters' questioning, Yunfan took out a golden card from the cover. There were many strange words written on the card. Yunfan found that he could not recognize the words on the card. However, he felt that there was some mysterious power in these words, and this power had an ancient charm. Yunfan's actions naturally attracted the attention of many people. When he took out the card from the cover, almost everyone gathered around him. What is written on this card? Zaya asked curiously. Ogden Rodney also observed. I seem to have seen this text somewhere, but now I can't remember it for a while. This is Florwen. I have seen this kind of text in the family's collection of books. Fran Waters was silent for a moment and suddenly spoke. Florwen, it is said that the demigod Hans Christopher created the language based on the divine script. Ogden Rodney paused slightly and said, but it is said that, since the death of the demigod Hans Christopher, no one knows this language anymore. This is a big lie. How could the flow divine script be created by a mere demigod? This is a divine script that existed in ancient times. Sakadin said with deep disdain in his tone. Divine script that existed in ancient times? The ancient flow divine script, that's right. Didn't I tell you before? There are actually many factions on the continent of the gods. Chapter 239 Golden Card. The gods of the entire continent of gods can be divided into 3 camps. The Order Camp, the Chaos Camp and the Neutral Camp. There are hundreds of factions in these camps, and the most powerful of them are the 12 factions of the 12 main gods. Since it's Flovin, do you know what this card says? Ogden Rodney asked anxiously. Although I have seen this kind of text, I know nothing about it. Fran Waters shook his head. At this time, the people of the Crazy Flow mercenary group also came over. When Zibia saw the golden card in Ogden Rodney's hand, a trace of disbelief appeared on his face, and he whispered, this is impossible. Even a saint can't discover the secret inside, but it doesn't matter. Even if they find the inheritance card, they shouldn't understand the content on it. Yunfan asked in his heart, Sakadin, do you understand the flow divine script? I only understand part of it. The universal divine script of the continent of gods is the creation divine script, and the spread of the flow divine script is not very wide. Then you pass the divine script you understand into my mind. Yunfan said lightly. In his previous life, Yunfan read a lot of documents in order to study the seeds of the world tree, and the characters used in those documents were also different. Yunfan can be said to have mastered more than 90% of the characters in his previous life. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is the strongest in the world in the study of the origin of characters. As long as he finds the basis for creating characters, Yunfan can even deduce all the characters. Yunfan, with his photographic memory, has memorized all the contents on the golden card. Can you let me see the card? Zibia looked at the golden card in Ogden Rodney's hand. How come you know Flovin? Everyone, including Ogden Rodney, looked at Zibia. My family got some information about Flovin by chance, so we can recognize some of Flovin. Zibia explained. How come you don't believe me? We are all on the same boat now. Ogden Rodney was silent for a moment, but when he thought of the earth fire in the tomb of the demigod, he decided to hand the golden card to Zibia. Zibia gently stroked the golden card, as if he was stroking his wife. Seeing Zibia's look, everyone couldn't help but shudder. What exactly is written on it? Ogden Rodney asked anxiously. While flicking the golden card, Zibia said, it says here that, if you want to find the tomb of the demigod, you must first find the ice and fire pond in the silent canyon. Through the teleportation array of the ice and fire pond, you can be teleported to the tomb of the demigod. Yunfan has already deduced most of the divine texts with the help of some of the flow divine texts provided by Sakadin. Through his analysis of the text on the golden card, he found that 3/10 of what Zibia said corresponded to the golden card, and the other 7/10 were either deliberately false, or he could not recognize all the texts. Yunfan believed that both aspects were true. However, it is true that you must first find the ice and fire pond in the silent canyon. Ogden Rodney stared at Zibia, as if he wanted to see something from his face. Zibia is also an old fox who has been on the battlefield for a long time, and it is difficult for others to find anything from his expression. Brother Dante, do you think what this guy said is true? Ogden Rodney used mental power to communicate with Yunfan. I think what this guy said is actually somewhat true. I'm afraid he wants us to be cannon fodder and explore the way for him. Yunfan responded with his mental power. I think so too. He will never tell us everything. Although Ogden Rodney was communicating with Yunfan with his mental power, the expression on his face did not change at all. I think that golden card should have other uses, so Grandpa Ogden, you must hand over that card first anyway. Yunfan suggested after careful consideration. G has translated all the words on the golden card. He is confident that he is the one who knows the tomb of the demigod best among these people, and the most important prop to open the tomb of the demigod is this golden card. Although Yunfan did not dare to say the content on the card, he did not want to make his people too passive. Ogden Rodney looked at Yunfan thoughtfully. He is now more and more curious about Yunfan. He is obviously just an insignificant little person, but he has intuition and strength that others do not have. Otherwise, he would not discuss this matter with Yunfan. Deputy Captain Zibia, what else did you read from this golden card? Ogden Rodney continued to ask. Although we have the information collected by our family, it is not easy to completely translate the contents of the golden card. Otherwise, I will take this golden card away first and tell you after the translation is completed. Zibia said. I'm afraid this is not a good idea. Otherwise, you can copy down the contents of this golden card first. After Yunfan's reminder, Ogden Rodney naturally would not let Zibia take the golden card directly. I didn't expect this old thing to not believe me. Zibia cursed in his heart. Although he didn't understand much of the contents on the golden card, he still understood the last item on the golden card, which was that he had to hold the golden card to open the tomb of the demigod. In that case, let's do as you said, Brother Ogden. Zibia hesitated for a moment. Someone, copy down the contents of the golden card for me. There are actually two reasons why Zibia agreed to Ogden Rodney now. The first aspect is that he has not yet figured out the contents of the entire golden card. It doesn't matter who has it now. Another reason is that he doesn't want to fall out with Ogden Rodney so early. At the same time, he is very confident that no one except him can understand the contents of the golden card. This is his advantage and his capital. Yunfan sneered at Zibia. It is not certain who will have the last laugh. After hearing the words of the deputy leader, several people from the Kuanglia mercenary group hurriedly took action and soon copied down all the words on the golden card. Chapter 240 Cassidy. Old man, I'll let the golden card stay in your hand for a while longer. When I translate all the words on the card, it will be your death. After getting the content on the golden card, everyone knew the direction to move forward and headed towards the direction of Silent Canyon. Although the team led by Ogden Rodney and the people of the Wildflow mercenary group are now whole on the surface, once there is a conflict of interest, the opposition will become very obvious. So they unanimously discussed and decided that whoever kills the prey will own it, and they will take turns to kill it. It's the cry of the dragon eagle. The dragon eagle is a solitary monster. We have hunted one before. Will we hunt it down? Berkeley looked at everyone and asked. The magic core of the dragon eagle is a 5th level one. Because it has the blood of the dragon clan, the price is much higher than the magic cores of other 5th level monsters. Although everyone had to work hard to hunt one before, they already had experience in dealing with dragon eagles. Now Berkeley said this, everyone was stunned, and then everyone looked at Ogden Rodney. Ogden Rodney did not answer, but frowned slightly. Although hunting the dragon eagle can get a lot of benefits, it is still very costly for everyone. There are people from the Kuanglia mercenary group who are eyeing them covetously. He really doesn't want everyone to take this risk. Just when everyone was asking Ogden Rodney, the dragon eagle also discovered Yunfan and his group, and had already attacked without any explanation. There is no need to consider it now. Even if we don't take the initiative to attack, the dragon eagle will definitely not let us go. Yunfan said lightly, prepare for battle. Both teams have taken out their weapons, but the people from the Kuanglia mercenary group don't seem to plan to take action, but just defend. The battle is about to break out. Deputy leader, are we just going to watch them take the dragon eagle magic core? The people from the Kuanglia mercenary group couldn't help but complain. Do they think that the magic core is so easy to take away? We just leave the magic core with them temporarily, and when they lose their usefulness. The deputy commander is indeed wise. The people of the Kuanglia mercenary group flattered them. You should also be more careful. Don't think that we are the smartest in the world. The old guy must have seen it a long time ago, but he doesn't want to say it now, because he knows there is no benefit in falling out with me now. The thoughts of these big shots are indeed not something a small person like me can understand. We have to do the superficial work, and we have to fight for some magic cause when appropriate. Are all mercenaries so rich now? They won't participate in the battle, even if there are magic cores to fight with. It's not because they are rich, but they have regarded us as free labor, and want to consume our combat effectiveness. Yunfan shook his head and said, if we encounter monsters again in the future, we should not fight if we can. Brother Dante, do you mean that they are preparing to do something bad to us? Isn't this obvious? The reason why the Madflow mercenary group did not attack us is, on the one hand, they are afraid of Grandpa Ogden's strength, and on the other hand, they want us to be cannon fodder, to find the location of the tomb of the demigod for them. Once the location of the tomb of the demigod is found, I'm afraid they will attack directly. I didn't expect these people to be so despicable. This world is like this. There is light and darkness everywhere. Only when you have absolute strength can you get what you want in this world. Yunfan said with emotion. After listening to Yunfan's words, after dealing with the dragon eagle, when they encounter the monster again, they will not rush forward regardless of everything, unless the danger is near. The group hurried on according to the map in the hands of Ogden Rodney and Zibia. What Yunfan and his friends didn't expect was that the map in Zibia's hand was more detailed than the map in Ogden Rodney's hand. Yunfan became more and more curious about Zibia's true identity. After 2 days of continuous travel, they finally arrived at the silent canyon, but were shocked by the scene that came into their eyes. Endless dry bones, staggered, layered, exuding a suffocating smell of mold and rot. The bones on the upper layer are still relatively tough and formed, but the bones buried in the lower layer have long been rotten, and they will break into powder with a light touch. There were piles of rocks and countless dead trees all over the ground, but only one huge strange tree was perched on top of it. Its ferocious and thick roots even peeled off the ground and entangled with countless rocks. At this moment, an angry roar came from a distance, and everyone couldn't help but look in that direction. In the sunlight, everyone saw a handsome and tall young man with blue hair, sword-like eyebrows and star-like eyes, floating in the air with a long sword in his hand, fighting with a ferocious beast in the sky. He was wearing a light armor, with silver shining metal inlaid on his shoulders and chest. From his clothes and dress, it was clear that he was dressed like a typical agile warrior. When he danced with the long sword in his hand, golden rays of light shone brightly, hitting the giant monster in the sky and making it scream continuously. Oh my god, he can fly in the air. He is a sky level warrior. He is so strong," everyone exclaimed, and their eyes were fixed on this Sky Warrior. An 8th level Sky Warrior would actually appear here. Is it a coincidence or? Yunfan could not help but frown. He was also surprised by the strength of this Sky Knight. If a 7th level Sky Tyrannosaurus encounters them, excluding Ogden Rodney, they may all be wiped out. Of course, this is the premise, that Yunfan does not run away. This Sky Warrior is too young, not much older than him, but he can face the Sky Tyrannosaurus alone. Not only does he not look tired at all, but he seems to be able to do it with ease. A golden fighting spirit soared up and pointed directly at the 7th level Sky Tyrannosaurus. The 7th level Sky Tyrannosaurus seemed to sense the crisis and flapped its wings to leave. At this time, the Sky Warrior accelerated with an impact and suddenly flew out. The long sword slashed across the belly of the 7th level Sky Tyrannosaurus. With a shrill cry, the 7th level Sky Tyrannosaurus staggered and finally fell from the void powerlessly. Cassidy is the 207th on the Continental Sky Combat Power List. Cassidy walked to the body of the Sky Tyrannosaurus, picked up the magic core of the Sky Tyrannosaurus with a long sword, and then strode to Ogden Rodney and others with a smile. After scanning everyone, his eyes finally fell on Zaya, and he bowed politely to Ogden Rodney. "Grandpa Ogden, I heard that you were looking for the tomb of the demigod, so I came here to help you." Chapter 241, Ice and Fire Lizard. "That's great," Ogden Rodney responded after hearing what Cassidy said. Even he got the information about the location of the tomb of the demigod from the golden card, and the other party had obviously arrived earlier. How could there be no trick? "Grandpa Ogden, now that we have this noble Sky Warrior joining us, I think we can go deeper faster. I believe we will find the tomb of the demigod soon." Yunfan saw that the matter was done, and he couldn't be driven away. He smiled and said to Ogden Rodney. He thought to himself that he had to let him do some hard labor for free. It would be a waste if such a Sky Warrior was not used. The two teams, plus Cassidy, continued to move forward towards the Silent Canyon. Along the way, because of the addition of Cassidy, it was much easier to deal with some of the monsters they encountered. "Zaya, what is this Continental Sky Combat Power List? Why are you all so surprised?" There is a combat power tower in the center of the Kuska continent. It is said to be a sacred artifact left by the gods on the continent. Everyone on the Kuska continent who has reached the 8th level Sky level has the qualifications to challenge the combat power tower. The top 1000 challengers will appear on the Continental Sky Combat Power List. The higher the ranking, the stronger the combat power. Those on the list will not only receive honors, but also certain rewards. "Grandpa, you should be on the list too, right?" Yunfan asked curiously. "Of course my grandfather is here too, and he's ranked 108th. Zaya said proudly, but immediately her mood became very low again. "If Grandpa hadn't been injured while looking for medicine to suppress my illness, I'm afraid he would have been in the top 100 now." Battle Power Tower. This is an interesting thing. I didn't expect that this thing still exists in Kuska continent. Sakurdin suddenly said, but it looks like it should be just a castrated version of the Battle Power Tower. Although it's just a castrated version, it's enough for this continent. Half is boiling water, half is glacier. It looks like this is the so-called Ice and Fire Divine Pond. Yunfan couldn't help but exclaimed. According to what was said on the golden card, the entrance to the tomb of the demigod should be under this Ice and Fire Divine Pond. Zaya picked up a stone from her side and threw it directly into the Ice and Fire Divine Pond. As Zaya threw 10 pieces, a whirlpool suddenly appeared in the Ice and Fire Divine Pond. The whirlpool surged faster and faster, and the hot gas evaporated up, turning this divine pond into hell. Soon, the overwhelming force tore out a huge vortex in the ice and heat wave, and the red flames that destroyed everything burned fiercely on the ice, like a climax of a carnival dance. "Zaya, leave that place quickly, it's dangerous." Ogden Rodney's face suddenly changed, and he screamed in panic. A panicked scream came from Zaya's mouth in an instant. Her legs were trembling, and she couldn't move. She pointed at the place and screamed in fear, "Ice and fire poison lizard." Yunfan was also stunned. He turned his head and found that from the distance of the ice and fire divine pond, a huge lizard with a green body, spikes on its back, and a length of 5 or 6 meters was quickly drifting over. The dark green pupils of this lizard shone with a cruel and ruthless light, and its big mouth with sharp fangs spewed out black smoke, and it was approaching Zaya quickly. This sudden change scared Zaya silly. She wanted to escape, but her body was a little stiff, and her speed was much slower. What should I do? Woo woo. Who will save me? Zaya sobbed and screamed in panic with fear, but the distance between the ice and fire poisonous lizard and her was getting closer and closer. Damn it, how could this happen? Ogden Rodney cursed regardless of his intention, and rushed to the direction of Zaya. At this time, Yunfan completely reacted. Looking at the ice and fire poisonous lizard that was constantly approaching Zaya, Yunfan did not hesitate to get up and go in. The ice and fire poisonous lizard is a 5th level monster. Not only does it have a strong attack power in its body, but it can also spray poisonous mist from its mouth and even release ice and fire magic with amazing power. Ordinary 5th level monsters have to use some strength to kill them. Now this ice and fire poisonous lizard that can release ice and fire magic is definitely more difficult to deal with. Now even Yunfan himself is not absolutely sure that he can resist the ice and fire poisonous lizard, but he can't watch Zaya being eaten, so he has to bite the bullet and go up. Damn it, let's fight. Yunfan appeared in front of Zaya in a flash. With a move of his mental power, he took out the shadow dagger from his space ring. His figure was like lightning. After a flash in the air, he flew directly to the ice and fire poisonous lizard. Because the matter was extremely urgent, no one noticed that Yunfan actually used space magic. In the ice and fire divine pond, the speed of the ice and fire poisonous lizard was indeed amazing, and when it moved forward, it even set off a huge wave, carrying a great momentum. The ice and fire poisonous lizard had climbed ashore from the river, and the distance between the man and the lizard had shortened to 5 or 6 meters. Ogden Rodney, who had already reached the shore, desperately stabbed out the flame spear and quickly rushed towards the ice and fire poisonous lizard. Yunfan's space magic speed was even faster, and he appeared in front of her so abruptly. After practicing the King Emperor's Daoki, Yunfan's body functions in all aspects far surpass those of professionals of the same level. When Yunfan used his full strength to attack, he immediately burst out with amazing power. When the flame spear hit the ice and fire poisonous lizard, Yunfan's demon sealing slash had already been cut out. Without saying anything, Yunfan pulled Zaya's hand and shouted, "Go quickly." The ice and fire poisonous lizard was hit several meters away by Yunfan. At this time, Yunfan had no time to take care of many things. In panic, he only had one thought, to take Zaya away from here quickly. Yunfan suddenly carried Zaya on his shoulders and crossed his legs rapidly. The ice and fire poisonous lizard was hit by Yunfan and seemed to be knocked unconscious. It took a moment to come back to his senses, but at this time Yunfan had already fled with Zaya. Raw. He didn't expect that someone would dare to take the food from his mouth. Angry, unwilling, it vented its emotions directly on the people closest to it, who happened to be members of the Crazy Flow mercenary group. These members of the Crazy Flow mercenary group originally just wanted to watch the fun and had no intention of taking action, but they happened to be here. If they had not been so close at the beginning, they might not have been affected. But now, in panic, their speed was greatly affected, and they watched the ice and fire poison lizard getting closer and closer. Chapter 242, Ice and Fire Winged Lizard. The guys from the crazy mercenary group showed panic on their faces. The general 5th level attacks were not very effective, as the skin of the ice and fire poison lizard was too thick. Woo woo, what should we do? What should we do? Are we going to be eaten by it? The members of the crazy mercenary group in the room sobbed in panic. They had never thought that death would be so close to them. Seeing the ice and fire poison lizard approaching, but unable to find a way to escape, they could only retreat desperately. In the end, the guys from the crazy mercenary group still could not escape the ice and fire poison lizard's poisonous hands, and were swallowed by it. Arsehole, how dare you eat my people? Zibia waved the long sword in his hand like a ferocious lion. The long sword slashed the ice and fire poison lizard's body. Although the long sword left deep marks on his skin, it did not cause fatal damage. Instead, his left arm was corroded by the sprayed poison gas. Zibia hurriedly threw out the venom remaining on his hand. Looking at his arm, that had turned somewhat black, Zibia's heart was ruthless, and a ferocious expression suddenly appeared on his face. He suddenly exerted force on his right hand, that was holding the long sword, and swung it with all his strength. The long sword flew directly from his hand, and pierced the eyes of the ice and fire poisonous lizard. The ice and fire poisonous lizard finally fell to the ground with a roar. Just when everyone thought that the crisis had been resolved and wanted to breathe a sigh of relief, a huge vortex appeared again in the ice and fire god pond. His vortex was completely different from the vortex at the beginning, and it was several times larger. Retreat. I don't know who suddenly shouted, and everyone evacuated in a panic. Many people didn't know where they ran to. Only Yunfan, Zaya, Zibia, Ogden Rodney and Cassidy were left by the ice and fire god pond. At this moment, the 5 people present had cold eyes, tightly grasped their weapons in their hands, and looked at the vortex of the ice and fire god pond with a vigilant look. The tomb of the demigod should be under this ice and fire pond, so if everyone wants to enter the tomb of the demigod, they must solve this problem. Zibia said in a gloomy tone. Brother Dante, can you please take Zaya away from here first? Ogden Rodney cast his eyes on Yunfan, who was standing aside, and said. Yunfan thought for a moment, nodded, and took Zaya's hand, and hid towards a small hill in the distance. The two hid behind a huge rock and carefully peeked at the situation over at the ice and fire pond. Brother Dante, do you think Grandpa and the others will be in trouble? Zaya said worriedly. Don't worry, little girl, the old man is so powerful, nothing will happen to him. Yunfan patted Zaya's little head and persuaded him. But I'm still very worried about Grandpa. Shh, don't talk, little girl. That guy is about to come out. Yunfan put the index finger of his right hand to his mouth. I saw a lizard's head first poking out of the ice and fire pond, followed by its huge body and tail. Its body was covered with spikes. Its face had huge horns like rhinoceros horns. It had wings on its back, and its eyes were bright green. It waved its 2 huge wings that were as big as mountains, almost covering the sky. So big. Zaya opened his mouth in disbelief. Ice and Fire Winged Lizard, Level 8, the advanced form of Ice and Fire Poison Lizard, with all the abilities of Ice and Fire Poison Lizard. Ogden Rodney said with a vigilant look. Level 8. I'm afraid this time is troublesome. Can't the 3 of us, Level 8 strong men, beat a big lizard of Level 8? Zibia said viciously. Now that the location of the tomb of the demigods has been found, if they are asked to give up, they will never be able to do it. Looking at the ice and fire poison lizard lying not far away, the ice and fire winged lizard suddenly had a trace of hatred in its eyes, and then it made an unknown strange cry, as if to tell the ice and fire poison lizard that he would definitely avenge her. The fire winged lizard flapped its wings and flew into the sky. As its wings fluttered, fire and ice rain suddenly fell in the air. The 3 people used defensive means to catch a cold. Ogden Rodney directly used the flame magic element to form a flame armor. Zibia and Cassidy frantically operated the fighting spirit in their bodies to form a fighting shield. The powerful fire and ice rain hit their defense shield like a meteor, and for a moment they were unable to make other attacks. The 3 people felt the powerful attack of the firewing lizard. They knew in their hearts that the firewing lizard had thick skin and flesh, and only its eyes were its weakness. To escape this disaster, they had to find a way to blind it. Cassidy said, you two should find a way to help me attract firepower first, and I will stab his eyes. After that, Cassidy exerted force on his feet and flew up. The firewing lizard did not expect Cassidy not to escape but to counterattack. After the huge lizard tail was wrapped around, it just made a large arc, but did not touch Cassidy. Looking at Cassidy stabbing at his eyes, the eyes of the ice firewing lizard flashed, as if mocking Cassidy's ignorance, and opened its mouth to reveal its fangs. As it raised its neck, a mouthful of black smoke was sprayed towards Cassidy's head. Be careful of the smoke it sprays. The smoke has a strong toxic effect. Even an 8th level strongman will be stiff until he can't move. At this time, Ogden Rodney shouted loudly in the distance. Cassidy was shocked. He really didn't expect that the poisonous fog of the ice firewing lizard would have such an effect. So he retreated halfway. Cassidy turned around in midair and avoided the poisonous fog of the ice firewing lizard, but the tail of the ice firewing lizard did take this opportunity to sweep towards him and hit him in an instant. The powerful impact directly knocked him to the ground. Cassidy stood up from the ground tremblingly, and at this moment his armor was already in tatters. Damn it, I didn't expect this bastard to have such great power. Cassidy had lost his gentlemanly demeanor and spoke viciously like a madman. Zaya, you stay here, and I'll go help them. Feeling the power of the ice and fire winged lizard, Yunfan knew that he could never get rid of the ice and fire winged lizard by himself. Brother Dante, even Grandpa and the others don't have any good solutions. It would be useless for you to go there, right? Although Zaya felt that Yunfan was quite powerful, she didn't think that Yunfan was better than his grandfather. Chapter 243, Promotion again. Eternal night descends corrosion. Darkness descended, and the power of the dark element spread directly. The ice and fire winged lizard seemed to feel a hint of threat from the darkness, and suddenly sprayed a cloud of poisonous mist from its mouth, trying to suppress the power of the dark element. However, Yunfan's dark power was more difficult than it imagined. At this moment, Yunfan flashed and appeared beside the ice and fire winged lizard. With a puff, the shadow dagger directly pierced the left eye of the ice and fire winged lizard, and blood spurted out. Accompanied by the ice and fire winged lizard's shrill scream, it twisted its neck, and its huge body twisted wildly. Roar. The voice was filled with endless anger, and the ice and fire tassels came all over the sky. Yunfan was startled, and quickly pulled out the shadow dagger, slapped his right palm and quickly withdrew. The blue flame of the Green Emperor fighting key flashed, and Yunfan also flew out instantly, breaking away from the ice and fire tassels. After being attacked by the Green Emperor's fighting spirit, the ice and fire winged lizard became even more violent, and its shrill cries were endless. At this moment, a cloud of black mist spurted out of the mouth of the ice and fire winged lizard again. Yunfan was unable to accumulate strength in the air for a while, and the black mist spread directly over. A strange black airflow penetrated into Yunfan's body through his pores. Yunfan felt numb all over his body, and suddenly felt sore and weak all over. Even the shadow dagger seemed to become as heavy as 1,000 pounds. Oh my god, this poisonous fog makes me unable to use any strength in my whole body. What kind of poison is this? It's so difficult to deal with. Yunfan couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Oh my god, Brother Dante was sprayed by the poisonous fog. What should I do? What's going on? Zaya, who was hiding in the dark, saw Yunfan being sprayed by the poisonous fog, and couldn't help but exclaimed, "Endless flame power, transform into a sky-supporting divine spear, and destroy everything in front of me with my will, the flaming divine spear." Ogden Rodney quickly chanted the spell, and at this moment, 3 sharp flaming divine spears suddenly appeared in the void, and pierced the ice and fire winged lizard. Ogden Rodney's flaming divine spear magic was extraordinary. All 3 flaming divine spears hit the ice and fire winged lizard, and 2 of them pierced the forehead of the ice and fire winged lizard, blooming 2 blood flowers. The last flaming divine spear directly blocked Yunfan, blocking the huge mouth that was about to swallow Yunfan. The angry ice and fire winged lizard had to give up the idea of swallowing Yunfan. At this moment, the King Emperor Daoki in Han Shuo's body began to circulate rapidly. Wherever the King Emperor Daoki flowed, the feeling of powerlessness instantly disappeared without a trace. Yunfan regained strength again. When the ice and fire winged lizard attacked him, Yunfan suddenly leaned back and fell to the ground. Then Yunfan jumped again. His body quickly approached the ice and fire winged lizard, stabbed the shadow dagger in his hand twice like lightning, and then fled away desperately. The ice and fire winged lizard did not expect Yunfan to attack him again. Suddenly, he let out a shrill scream, and ice and fire flew in an instant. The ice and fire winged lizard's 2 pupils all overflowed with thick blood. My god, Brother Dante can still move, and he also blinded the ice and fire winged lizard's eyes. It's amazing. Zaya stood behind the stone and shouted, and the previous panic sobbing magically turned into excited cheers. However, the ice and fire winged lizard was completely in a frenzy at this time. It was precisely because of the frenzy of the ice and fire winged lizard that the huge lizard tail was randomly tumbling, and it happened to hit Yunfan, causing Yunfan's body, which was originally moving quickly, to be hit suddenly, and his body flew into the air and fell to the distance. At the same time, Ogden Rodney continued to release high-level fire magic, burning the injured double holes of the ice and fire winged lizard desperately. The ice and fire wing lizard, which had lost its pupils, could not avoid Ogden Rodney's attack. Cassidy and Zibia were also unwilling to fall behind. They were full of fighting spirit and also specialized in attacking the weaknesses of the ice and fire wing lizard. The injured parts were attacked several times in succession. The neck and the pupils of the huge mouth were pierced by the long sword repeatedly, and the sound waves in the air became louder and louder. Unfortunately, looking at it, it was getting weaker and weaker. Although the frenzied ice and firewing lizard knew that it should escape now, it could not distinguish the direction without its eyes, and it was impossible to escape directly. Finally, he had to follow the sound and wanted to kill several people, as if he was going to eat all the attackers regardless of everything. Unfortunately, as the injury became more and more serious, the attack power of the ice and firewing lizard had become increasingly weak and pale. Finally, the ice and firewing lizard fell down helplessly. Yunfan's body fell to the ground, his clothes tore from his chest and abdomen, and his right chest was red, as if he was injured by the ice and firewing lizard's tail. Zaya hurriedly ran out of the bunker and said with a worried look on his face, Brother Dante, how are you? Not dead yet, little girl. Don't worry too much. Yunfan said intermittently. I knew that Brother Dante was blessed with a good life. How could he die like this? Zaya said while shaking Yunfan's body. Little girl, take it easy. If you keep shaking like this, I won't be killed by the ice firewing lizard, but you will be killed by me. Yunfan said slowly. Sorry. Zaya hurriedly apologized. Yunfan's body was still a little stiff and weak because of the poison gas of the ice and firewing lizard. Yunfan took the antidote he made when he was free, and soon he got better. But he was thrown by the ice and fire wing lizard before, and it was really not good. Now his body is really injured, and his sternum is broken. Yunfan's King Didauki started to work directly, slowly repairing his body. It was already afternoon, and everyone still hadn't found a way to enter the tomb of the demigod. Because of his injury, Yunfan sat cross-legged on a towering tree not far away, holding his breath and concentrating his mind to silently condense his body over and over again with King Didauki. Time passed unknowingly, and the body, that was still slightly uncomfortable under the circulation of King Didauki, slowly became less uncomfortable. Unknowingly, every part of Yunfan's skin, flesh, and bones in his body were filled with surging power. When Yunfan fell into a mysterious state, the comfortable pleasure spread to his whole body. Crackling explosions sounded from Yunfan's body. Along with these sounds, faint black stains flowed out from Hanshuo's pores. This was the legendary hair removal and marrow cleansing on Earth. The turbid air and harmful substances in Yunfan's body slowly flowed out, and a group of hazy green light vaguely lingered around his body. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244 Discovery. Yunfan's King Didauki successfully broke through again and advanced to the 5th intermediate level. His body was reborn again. Whether it was strength, flexibility or strength, it was far beyond the past. With a thought, the King Didauki circulated smoothly. The King Didauki not only circulated in the limbs, but also easily reached the position of the world tree seedling in the head. Yunfan couldn't help but look at the skin of his arm. The shallow scars that existed originally were gone now. He moved his body and Yunfan clearly felt that his brain was more sensitive, his thinking speed was much faster, and his height seemed to have increased by 1 or 2 centimeters. Looking up at the sky, Yunfan found that it was already night, but Yunfan could see every blade of grass and every tree in the dark. At this time, Yunfan couldn't help but indulge in the joy of rebirth. He kept circulating the King Didauki to reach his limbs, and excitedly felt every change in his body. At this moment, Yunfan suddenly felt a very subtle spatial fluctuation. If Yunfan's other identity was not a space magician, he might not be able to sense it. Yunfan observed again, and at the same time, he also noticed a bit of weirdness. In other places in the silent canyon, no matter how quiet it was, there would be some sounds of insects and ants. However, after arriving here, Yunfan found that the area he was in was almost dead silent, without any insects and ants, and there was no trace of living things around. Strange, in an ordinary environment, the whole area made Yunfan feel a bit of inexplicable unreality. At this moment, Yunfan suddenly felt that the seedling of the world tree in the sea of consciousness was shaking. This breath made Yunfan feel that something was going to happen. "Brother Dante, did you find something?" Ogden Rodney noticed Yunfan's strange behavior and walked over to ask. "I always feel that something seems to be wrong here." Yunfan frowned and said, "Something's wrong?" Ogden Rodney looked around and found nothing. "Brother Dante, you're not overthinking it. Maybe. Wait a minute, there's something wrong here. It's too quiet." Ogden Rodney raised his eyebrows. "And it's too desolate here. Something's wrong. Something's wrong." Yunfan looked around again. His mental power moved, and Yunfan's mental power instantly covered the surroundings. At this moment, Yunfan suddenly noticed a strange place. Under his mental power, the surrounding area was undergoing changes that made Yunfan dumbfounded. The weeds and shrubs on the ground disappeared without a trace, turning into a grey-brown dry ground, with a pile of white bones on the ground. Some towering trees with lush branches and leaves next to them also changed under their mental power, and became the skeletons of large monsters. If Yunfan didn't make a mistake, those huge skeletons should be the dragons in the legendary world. Death. A dead silence, desolate and empty. Under the illumination of mental power, the entire area instantly became an eternal and unchanging kingdom of death. What on earth is this? There was a huge stone door in the middle. Half of it was suspended in the air, and half of it was buried deep underground. Some strange runes were engraved on the stone door. Yunfan murmured, "This should be the legendary tomb of the demigod, right? Isn't it said that the tomb of the demigod is under the ice and fire pond? The tomb of the demigod is the legendary holy land of magicians, and it is also the destination of everyone's trip to the silent canyon." Yunfan used his mental power to look around in all directions. In connection with what everyone had said before, it was basically certain that this place was the tomb of the demigod in the transmission. "Grandpa Ogden, can you take out the golden card?" Yunfan said to Ogden Rodney with a move in his heart. Ogden Rodney didn't say anything, and took out the golden card from the space ring, and handed it to Yunfan. Yunfan took the golden card, and tried to communicate with his mental power. What Yunfan didn't expect, was that at the moment of his mental power communication, the golden card suddenly emitted a hazy golden light. Yunfan's mental power, like being sucked by a whale, quickly flowed into the golden card. As the mental power in his brain continued to drain, Yunfan felt as if his head was torn apart, and the pain became more and more intense. Yunfan suddenly collapsed to the ground, constantly gasping for breath, and the whole person instantly became a little confused. This state lasted for a while, and Yunfan slowly returned to normal. What he didn't expect was that his mental power actually improved significantly. Yunfan couldn't help but stare at the golden card in joy. Suddenly, Yunfan saw that the golden card was like a display screen, and there were traces of golden light inside. These lights continued to connect and entangle, like a brush sketching a picture. After a while, a pattern appeared from it. It was a stone door that was exactly the same as the one he saw under his mental power. Then the stone door in the golden card resonated with the stone door under the spiritual power. The stone door appeared directly in front of everyone. At the moment the stone door appeared, the golden card turned into golden stars. No one noticed that the golden stars turned back into golden cards in Yunfan's mind a moment later. Feeling the golden card in his mind, Yunfan breathed a sigh of relief. Yunfan knew in his heart that this golden card must be a key thing to enter the tomb of demigod. Now the golden card entered his sea of consciousness and was not discovered by others. This was his advantage. The golden card disappeared. Is this the door to the tomb of demigod? Ogden Rodney shouted in surprise. The tomb of demigod. When they were facing the tomb of demigod, they hesitated. The place where the demigod hides secrets. Even if there is no secret of becoming a god, there must be mysterious secrets. This is a huge temptation for everyone, but the crisis seems to coexist with opportunities, so they have to carefully consider whether they need to take risks. After a while, everyone's face was firm, and they began to step on the white bones and walk towards the direction of the tomb of demigod. After they walked a few steps, they entered the stone gate of the tomb of the demigod. The moment they entered the tomb of the demigod, the entire area disappeared without a trace. Yunfan and the others were stunned and looked around in astonishment. They found that the way they came had disappeared. The outer area where Yunfan's eyes saw changed again and returned to the situation when he first arrived. However, the surrounding area of the tomb of the demigod, all the way to the feet of Yunfan and his friends, was a scene of burning flames. Chapter 245 Lava Monster. Under their feet was a stone platform burning with magma. As they walked, it made a creaking sound. In the quiet environment, the sudden sound made everyone feel a little creepy. It's so hot. There are so many broken bodies here, as if they had experienced a war. It seems that this is not the effect of fire magic, or ordinary firefighting spirit. What happened in this demigod's tomb? Could these bodies be left by adventurers like us? I think this is not simple. Although the broken bodies are not complete, judging from their body shapes, they don't seem to be very different from the races on the continent. They are a bit like the racial abomination created by the bone cult. Forget it. Instead of assuming here, it's better to go in and take a good look. As they talked, the fear of the people gradually subsided, and they speculated on various possibilities. However, they were still full of awe for the demigod's tomb. In the end, curiosity in their hearts still defeated fear and awe, and they walked into the demigod's tomb carefully. The most important reason is that it is too late for them to regret now. The way they came here has been completely blocked, and there is no way to escape. When everyone was looking forward to finding the secret of the tomb of the demigod as soon as possible, the ground suddenly shook violently. Everyone was unstable and swaying, and many people fell directly to the ground. Damn, what happened? Everyone was in doubt, and many people tightly grasped the people around them. In worry and fear, the ground shook more violently. No one could stand. Almost everyone fell to the ground and came into close contact with the scorching earth. Boom. There was another violent tremor, like a crane tamping the ground, shaking continuously. Boom. The last violent tremor was like thunder, as if it wanted to shatter all tangible substances. A heat wave came, and everyone felt that their skin was burned and painful, and they could clearly feel that something had collided with a strong force. But at this time, several people hurriedly used their own means to emit a little light, slowly offsetting the unimaginable impact. Everyone was in doubt. What happened in the depths of the tomb of the demigod? Just now, they felt that a huge change was about to happen, but in an instant, everything was calm, which made people curious. No, there was a terrible impact just now. How could it suddenly stop? It's not an illusion. There was indeed a fierce impact in the depths of the tomb of the demigod, but we were not affected. Just when everyone was in doubt, a sound like flowing water suddenly came from a distance. Everyone couldn't help but look in that direction. They saw a flaming red river not far away. The scorching magma rolled in the red river, and layers of flaming heat waves were rolling. At this time, everyone was surprised to find that the scorching magma river blocked their way, but there were indeed many stone platforms hanging on the flaming river. It was firmly fixed there, and did not fall down. It seems that we must find a way to cross the river. Ogden Rodney frowned slightly. He always had a feeling of uneasiness. If he wanted to cross the magma, something bad might happen. There is a forbidden air formation here. Even sky warriors or mages cannot pass through it in midair. Cassidy tried it slightly and found that as a sky warrior, he had lost the ability to fly in the sky. Why did everyone retreat like this? It's just a small lava river. Berkeley looked at the people in front of him with some disdain. Berkeley, since you are so powerful, you go and try it. Cassidy curled his lips. Yunfan shook his head slightly, reached out and took out a piece of ore from his space ring, and then threw the ore into the magma. The ore instantly rose up when it fell into the magma, and it was assimilated by the magma in a short while. It can be seen with the naked eye that the temperature of this lava river is too high. If an ordinary person falls in, he will definitely die. Oh my god, what is that? Zaya suddenly pointed to the place where the ore fell and exclaimed. Yunfan and the others couldn't help but look in the direction that Zaya pointed to. Directly where Yunfan had just thrown the ore, a vortex suddenly appeared in that place. If I'm not mistaken, it seems that there is a very powerful fire type monster that is about to come out of the magma. Yunfan said calmly. As soon as Yunfan finished speaking, a red monster covered with light red scales, with wings and a tail, suddenly appeared in front of everyone, and he was burning with raging fire. This is an 8th level lava beast. As an 8th level sky mage, Ogden Rodney recognized the type of monster in front of him at a glance. You know, the monster in front of him has always been his dream pet. It's just that this kind of monster is hard to come by. Even if you encounter it, even a saint level master can't make the monster surrender. What a surging fire elemental power. Yunfan said involuntarily. Go. Berkeley, you must not hold back this time, otherwise we might all die here. Ogden Rodney said in a low voice. After Berkeley felt the gap, he knew that he couldn't hold back anymore, so he went all out. Fighting saint technique. The wind whistled, the sword flashed, and the sword shadow fluttered. Countless fighting blades appeared around Berkeley, all attacking the 8th level lava beast in front of him. However, the 8th level lava beast stood in the magma and only took some slight steps back and turned. The seemingly slight changes in its body shape made Berkeley's attack return in vain. The fighting blades hit the 8th level lava beast, making a bang sound like thunder. It was obviously powerful and heavy, just like cutting on a rock. As expected of the bloody warrior Berkeley, I didn't expect that he would be so powerful once he fought for his life. What are you two guys thinking about? Berkeley said unhappily. Obviously, except for Ogden Rodney and Cassidy, other people including Yunfan were not in his eyes at all. It seemed that the attacks of other people would never cause any harm to the monster. Ogden Rodney and Cassidy also rushed to attack after hearing Berkeley shouting. Who? Fighting skill. Crazy dragon slash. Cassidy suddenly drew his sword and attacked without hesitation. With a flash of lightning, a dragon-shaped fighting spirit was instantly spit out. Cassidy's fighting skill, Crazy dragon slash, left a deep knife mark on the lava beast. Raw. A brutal aura emanated from the 8th level lava beast. Almost everyone present felt insignificant under this momentum. Chapter 246. Semi-saint level. So strong. So surprising. The aura revealed by him actually made me unable to move. Zaya said with a look of horror. Hoo-la-la. Hoo-la-la. The sound of iron chains colliding came from the magma ground. Yunfan couldn't help but look over. The flaming redstone platform connected by iron chains actually trapped the lava beast there. There was a faint roar, and the roar made the whole earth tremble, and the huge iron chains above were shaking and making sounds. Why does it feel like a trapped beast fighting? Yunfan muttered to himself. Could it be that the lava beast is specially used to guard the tomb of the demigod? Just when everyone was in a daze, another lava vortex appeared not far from the lava beast, and then a huge head with red hair gradually emerged from the magma. Damn it, I didn't expect there was more than one lava beast here. And if I'm not mistaken, this lava beast is not an ordinary lava beast. It has already vaguely comprehended a trace of the power of the domain. It's not an exaggeration to say that it is a semi-saint level magic beast. Yunfan stared at Ogden Rodney with wide eyes, with a look of astonishment. A semi-saint level magic beast? Isn't that a semi-saint beast? That's right, a holy beast is also a kind of magic beast. There are really not many semi-saint beasts like this in the acquired stage in the Endless Land. You know, it is much more difficult for magic beasts to break through than humans. Generally, among tens of thousands of 8th stage beasts, only one will break through to the holy level magic beast with difficulty. Hoo-la-la. The sound of the iron chain kept ringing. I never thought that even the semi-saint level magical beast, the lava beast, was trapped here by the demigod. How did that person get through back then? What exactly does the demigod Hans Christopher want to do? Everyone dared not be distracted at this moment. Everyone focused on the chain, fearing that the chain would be opened accidentally. Hoo-la-la. The iron chain shook and hit, and the lava beast seemed to want to break free from the chain. Roar. Then a violent roar sounded, and everyone above stared at the lava beast carefully. Ji Yunfan also held his breath and paid close attention to the lava beast's every move. Sakon, as a former god, you should know the weakness of this lava beast. Ji Yunfan said. If the biggest weakness of the lava beast is that it is afraid of water, then the water magic element is absolutely scarce here. Even a water magician may not be able to exert any power of water magic. You must know that this big guy in front of you is not just a semi-holy magic beast. Although the blood of the magic beast is already very weak, just that meaning is not trivial. Trapped in this magma for countless years, the lava beast has forgotten the time. If it were a magic beast of other races, it would have died with the passage of time. If the lava beast was not one of the longest lived magic beasts in the world and could sleep for decades, he would have been driven crazy long ago. It overlooked the little thing in the distance, humans. As a special existence among magic beasts, its wisdom is no less than that of humans. It understands that it is trapped here to protect the secret of the demigod's tomb. I'm afraid that the purpose of this demigod to build this demigod's tomb is not to find any successor, but to not want others to disturb his sleep. Ji Yunfan couldn't help thinking. I can't believe, after such a long time, there are still people who can walk here. I can't remember how long it has been since that person came here last time. What Ji Yunfan and the others didn't expect was that the lava beast in front of them actually started to speak. You can actually speak, Ji Yunfan said in disbelief. Fan, you don't need to make such a fuss, okay? As long as the level reaches the semi-saint level, what's the problem with speaking? When their level reaches the god level, it is also very simple to transform into humans. Otherwise, how do you think those beast gods come from? After Sakadin said this, Ji Yunfan found a trace of information about the beast gods from the depths of his memory. This memory of the beasts was transmitted by the seedling of the world tree. It was the memory of the god who wanted to devour Ji Yunfan a long time ago. Human, why did you come here? This is not a place you can set foot on. But since you are already here, then don't leave, just stay here and accompany us. One of the lava beasts said again. Ji Yunfan and the others frowned slightly when they heard the words of the lava beast, because the lava beast in front of them did not seem to want to hurt them. Senior lava beast, can you tell us why? Ji Yunfan asked curiously. This was actually a battlefield in the past. Just remember that I didn't let you in to protect the continent. Lava beast, isn't that too alarmist? To protect the continent? Who would believe you? Is it because the tomb of the demigods holds the secret of becoming a god? Zibia sneered. Warrior, every word I say is true. If you don't believe it, I can't help it, but I will never let you go. Although the lava beast was very unhappy with what Zibia said, he could do nothing because of the existence of the chain. Senior lava beast, what do you mean by protecting the continent? Is there any force on this continent that wants to destroy the continent? For some reason, Ji Yunfan couldn't help but think of the bone cult. Yes, there is a very evil force in this world. Almost everyone in this force practices the power of destruction. They deliberately provoke wars and absorb power from wars to improve themselves. They believe in a very evil god, which they call the god of destruction. The lava beast was silent for a long time before speaking slowly. What is the god of destruction? Ji Yunfan muttered to himself. Even the others were still puzzled. They had heard of the god of light, the god of life, the god of space, the god of darkness, a series of names of gods, but had never heard of the god of destruction. However, just from the name, he felt that this so-called god of destruction was not a good god. It's incredible that someone actually believes in the god of destruction. Sakadin's tone was full of fear, as if something incredible had happened. Sakadin, have you heard of this so-called god of destruction? Ji Yunfan asked curiously. Chapter 247, Moruo Fighting Skills. Legend has it that the god of destruction and the god of creation are the two newest ancient gods in the world. The god of creation created the entire world, while the god of destruction exists to destroy the entire world. Sakadin said in horror. Existing to destroy the entire world, so this so-called god of destruction should be on the same level as the god of creation. Ji Yunfan said thoughtfully. Ji Yunfan was not surprised by these. Where there is light, there must be darkness. Where there is creation, there must be destruction. Everything has completely contradictory attributes. But where is this so-called god of destruction? Legend has it that he was sealed by the god of creation. I don't know whether this is true or false. But whether these things are true or false, it doesn't matter to us now. Strong people like the god of creation are not something we can figure out. Don't worry about the god of creation or the god of destruction. The most important thing for us now is to leave here alive. Yunfan curled his lips and thought to himself, wait, when I came in just now, I seemed to have encountered a hateful corpse. If what this lava beast said is true, then the so-called bone cult is the believer of the god of destruction? Oh my god, it's really possible. When you say that, both the bone cult and the so-called immortal legion are extremely warlike. Sakuten was also very surprised. Forget it. Anyway, there is always someone taller to hold up the sky if it falls. I'm afraid I can't do anything with just a 5th level professional like me. Yunfan was optimistic. It's impossible to stay here. Ogden Rodney said lightly. Yes, it's impossible to stay here. Cassidy also said in a firm tone. In that case, let's see your strength. Do you have the qualifications to go there? Yunfan stretched out his right hand and took out the shadow dagger from the space ring. The shadow dagger flashed with cold light. Then I'm sorry for offending you, senior. One of the lava beasts with slightly weaker strength had a huge body weighing nearly 10,000 pounds. The iron chains on its body were rattling, but its 4 hooves were moving forward very lightly, and its narrow eyes were examining Yunfan. Yunfan took a few steps forward with the shadow dagger in his hand, and the distance between them was closer. Then he recited a magic spell. Bang! The lava beast changed from being indifferent before to being brutal. The red giant mouth opened slightly, and a ball of fire was spit out from its mouth, and turned into a red afterimage, rushing straight at Yunfan. Whoosh! At the critical moment, Yunfan moved his feet, and dodged the attack of the lava beast's fireball like a gust of wind, and stabbed the shadow dagger in his hand. This stab was decisive and fast as lightning. As long as it stabbed into the lava beast's fireball, it would split the lava beast's fireball in two. Huh. It's so hot. After the stab, Yunfan's face changed. The hot feeling from the shadow dagger made him very uncomfortable. In this case, let me try again. Cassidy smiled slightly, and the fighting spirit in his body quickly circulated. The long sword in his hand turned into a meteor shower, shooting away as fast as lightning. At the same time, the lava beast's tail also swept violently, and Cassidy, who was unable to avoid it, blocked it with his horizontal sword. The tip of the sword encountered huge resistance. The petrified skin of the lava beast blocked the tip of the sword, making it impossible to penetrate. Bang! The lava beast's tail was like a heavy steel whip hitting Cassidy's sword. The powerful impact made Cassidy fly out, and his whole body hit the stone wall in the distance with a bang. Bang! Clang! The thick stone wall trembled violently. Roar! The lava beast immediately ejected a lava fireball from its mouth, and the fireball flew directly towards Cassidy. Cassidy was shocked when he saw the flying fireball. He dodged and jumped up, and escaped with his extremely fast speed. Swish! 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 Several deep pits appeared on the red stone wall. The lava beast turned his head and looked at Cassidy in the distance. Originally, his strong body was his killer move, but now that his movements were restricted, he could only choose a slightly inferior lava fireball. The temperature of this fireball was very high. Once it hit the body, even an 8th level warrior would suffer a lot of damage. The human boy actually fled far away in an instant, avoiding his fireball. From the momentum of the young man in front of him, it understood that the human boy was really strong, and had the strength to fight it. If a general 8th level warrior is hit by this lava fireball, I'm afraid his internal organs will be shattered and die. Cassidy frowned and looked at the lava beast in the distance. It seems that we have to rely on the power of Moro fighting skills. As a powerful warrior, it is essential to have advanced fighting skills. Otherwise, even if your fighting spirit is strong and deep, you can't play the full level of fighting spirit. Even some powerful fighting skills have a high amplification efficiency. The Moro fighting skills that Cassidy mastered are a very remarkable way to use fighting spirit. It can exert 150% of the power of its own fighting spirit. Although the power of this Moro fighting skill is very huge, Cassidy usually doesn't use it easily. Everything in the world is very fair. When the power exceeds a certain limit, you must pay the corresponding price. Although the Moro fighting skill can increase the power of fighting spirit in a short period of time, the consumption of fighting spirit is also very alarming. In order to master the Moro fighting skill, Cassidy has made unimaginable efforts over the years. In the eyes of others, Cassidy is a legendary genius, but only he knows that he is not a genius. He has made unimaginable efforts, and even squeezed his own potential to have the current strength. Now his potential has been almost completely exhausted, and there is almost no hope for him to reach the saint level. The reason why he came to explore the tomb of the demigods this time is to find opportunities. Moro fighting skill flying dragon killing god slash. Cassidy hummed, and 2 visible air currents spurted out of his nasal cavity, and the air currents made the air vibrate. At this moment, the terrible power hidden deep in this seemingly thin body completely erupted, and the Moro fighting spirit hidden in the body also began to erupt, and the skin all over the body was faintly blue. Cassidy swung the long sword in his hand fiercely, and the long sword cut through the air, to produce a powerful air wave, directly cutting a gully in the ground in front. The lava beast in the distance suddenly roared, and stared at the young man. At this moment, it actually felt a very dangerous aura from the young man. I didn't expect this guy to be so powerful. Zibia looked a little gloomy. Chapter 248 pass. But it's fine this way. I'll make my move after you've worn down the lava beast's strength. By then, none of you can escape. The lava beast's rock hard hooves and claws came out like a knife out of its sheath, and all its sharp claws came out and collided directly with the long sword. The huge thrust from the long sword pushed Cassidy back 4 or 5 meters. Feeling the heavy force coming from the long sword, Cassidy shook his head involuntarily. He didn't expect that he used the magic fighting skills, but didn't cause much damage to the lava beast. He felt a little disappointed. This was already his strongest attack, and it couldn't even pierce the fur. How could he fight it? I didn't expect this kid to know how to use Moro fighting skills. Could he be the descendant of that kid? The semi-saint lava beast muttered to himself, as if he was in deep memory. If he is really the descendant of that kid, let him go in and take a look. Maybe there will be unexpected gains, or not. Ogden Rodney frowned deeply. The lava beast has the blood of gods and demons, and its skin is extremely tough. Ordinary saint level warriors may not be able to pierce its skin. This thing is like a mountain in front of my eyes. Even my strongest magic may not be able to break the defense. This kid is quite interesting, but I don't know if others can give me a little surprise. The semi-saint lava beast muttered in his heart. Cassidy walked around the lava beast with a sharp sword in his hand, walking step by step in a big circle. The lava beast also kept staring at Cassidy and did not attack easily, because once attacked, there will be flaws, and life and death are often decided in a moment of life and death. Okay, stop it. At this time, the voice of the semi-saint lava beast suddenly sounded. Hearing the words of the semi-saint lava beast, the man and the beast hesitated for a moment and gave up the attack. I don't know what the lava beast wants. Cassidy slightly arched his hands to the semi-saint level lava beast. The semi-saint level lava beast was not something he could resist at the moment. If the semi-saint level lava beast wanted to stop him, even if he tried his best, it would be useless. Your strength has been recognized by me, so I agree to let you go. But you still need to tell me your name, the semi-saint level lava beast said in a calm tone. Cassidy, Cassidy Moro. Cassidy, Cassidy Moro? It turns out that you are the descendant of that kid, the semi-saint level lava beast said in a voice that only he could hear. Then the semi-saint level lava beast turned his eyes to the others. Who else wants to try? As long as your strength is recognized by me, I will make an exception and let you in. I'm sorry, Lava Beast Senior. At this time, Zibia turned into a blurry after image without any warning and approached the lava beast. The lava beast felt that its dignity was challenged and immediately roared and raised its thick forehead, opened its mouth, and revealed its fangs, and the lava fireball also enveloped Zibia. Stab. The sword light flashed. When the sword shadow broke through the air, it changed several times in a small range. Zibia's sword speed increased to a terrifying level, as if the void was about to be torn apart. The sword shadow slashed the lava beast, leaving a scar, but what flowed out of the scar was not blood but magma. The lava beast bared its teeth and roared at Zibia. The muscles on the huge wound on its chest contracted, and the speed of the magma slowed down, but the magma was still flowing slowly. It was obvious that the wound was too big. Middle-aged man, although you give me a very bad feeling, your strength has reached my requirements, so I allow you to pass through here. Zibia also breathed a sigh of relief after hearing the words of the semi-saint level lava beast. Then Ji Yunfan and Ogden Rodney took the test in turn. What Ji Yunfan didn't expect was that Zaya, the little girl, also passed the test. What is this lava beast testing? Ji Yunfan was a little puzzled. It doesn't seem to have any practical significance. Ji Yunfan naturally didn't know that the existence of the lava beast was set up for practitioners of the power of destruction. As long as they didn't practice the power of destruction, they would be allowed to pass. I thought it would be very dangerous to enter the tomb of the demigods, but I didn't expect to pass the first level so easily. Everyone was full of joy. Everyone cheered and rushed forward. In such a hot place, everyone didn't want to stay even for a second. After passing the lava river, the next one was a mountain path. The gap was enough for 2 people to walk side by side, but it looked dim. However, before everyone walked for long, they were all stunned like clay sculptures or wooden sculptures. The whole world seemed to have experienced the baptism of war. The earth seemed to be stained by blood. Many bones were scattered on the ground, cold and desolate. The site was desolate and empty. There were some huge strange rocks standing on the ground, which looked like tombstones of death. The light between the sky and the earth was dark brown, and it was gloomy, like a dead dusk surrounded by a faint black fog. Everyone was stunned. Everything here was too different from the scene of the demigod tree they imagined. Almost everyone had an inexplicable fear in their hearts, as if something unspeakable was going to happen. The endless reddish-brown land was remote and dead silent, without any signs of life. What kind of war had happened here? Never seen, never heard of, not even recorded in any classics. It is a completely strange and mysterious place. Why do I have a feeling that I will die here? The voice of the person who spoke was shaking. I really want to go back. Becoming a peerless strongman is not as important as my own life. Although these people knew that they had no way to retreat, their beliefs had begun to waver. Ji Yunfan and Ogden Rodney stood at the front. The 2 looked at each other and then shook their heads. After this period of time, they understood each other best. Now both of them felt that the situation was not good. Everyone was in a worrying situation. This place was full of unknowns and variables. Now is not the time for everyone to complain about others and worry about the sky. God knows what kind of crisis is in the tomb of the demigod. Ji Yunfan reminded. At this time, after hearing Ji Yunfan's reminder, the others began to look around anxiously and panicked. Chapter 249, Emergency. The broken brown gravel covers a vast area. It can be imagined that a huge project must have been built here when it was built. However, it has been eroded by time for many years and is now level with the ground, covered with reddish brown gravel. The ground seems to have only revealed a rough outline. Huge white bones lie on the ground. It is conceivable how tragic the war was. Many people are pale. At this moment, everyone thinks of various possibilities. The scene in front of them is like the end of the world. The empty desert is right in front of them, so they have to remain silent. Why is it so scary here? If we had known earlier, we really shouldn't have come here. We can't find the way back. Several of the more fragile second-generation bodies shook. If no one had supported them, they would have fallen to the ground. They had imagined flying into the sky when they were looking for the tomb of the demigod. Don't panic now, there will be a solution. Have you forgotten that the man once went out of the tomb of the demigod? Ogden Rodney said loudly. Yes, since that person has walked out of the tomb of the demigod, we can naturally. But how can we get out? Even the members of the Crazy Flow mercenary group, who have rich adventure experience, are trembling with fear and anxiety. The unknown will make some people full of awe and fear, and at the same time, it will make people want to explore. Everyone be careful, this place is full of negative forces, and these negative forces will affect our thinking. Because of the special cultivation method, Ji Yunfan soon found that everyone's state was not normal and hurriedly reminded them. Yes, if it wasn't for Brother Dante's reminder just now, I really didn't notice it. After hearing Ji Yunfan's words, Cassidy's face changed slightly. After hearing Ji Yunfan's words, Ogden Rodney also took out a purification scroll from the space ring. Then Ogden Rodney directly unfolded the purification scroll, and a holy light instantly enveloped everyone. Under the shining of the holy light, everyone felt their spirits refreshed, and all negative emotions disappeared in an instant. This disgusting and terrifying atmosphere should be coming from over there. Ji Yunfan pointed to a direction in front of the left thoughtfully. Because his mental power has reached the realm of subtlety, his senses are often more sensitive than others. Everyone couldn't help but look at Ji Yunfan for a few more times, and then cast their eyes in the direction Ji Yunfan pointed. Otherwise, let's go over there and take a look. Maybe we will find something. Let me go and take a look first. Cassidy hesitated for a moment and walked in the direction Ji Yunfan pointed, wanting to see the situation nearby. Zaya was not far away, and it seemed that her chest was a little stuffy. She shivered as she pressed her jade hands on her chest. She hugged her arms and her beautiful face was a little pale. Her brows wrinkled involuntarily, and then she returned to her initial calm. Zaya, what's wrong? Ji Yunfan noticed Zaya's bad condition and asked. Zaya shook his head and said, I don't know what's going on. I've been feeling stuffy in my chest since I came here. Girl, is your illness going to break out? Ogden Rodney hurried over from a distance and asked with concern. Grandpa, don't worry so much. Zaya hesitated for a moment and said with some uncertainty, it will take some time for my illness to break out. It should be, because the strange atmosphere here makes me uncomfortable. Maybe it will be fine after a while. I hope so. Ogden Rodney said with a worried look on his face. Ji Yunfan didn't say anything more because he knew that he couldn't do anything now. Only by finding the underground fire as soon as possible could Zaya's problem be solved. Let the little girl rest here for a while, Ji Yunfan said as he walked in the direction he pointed out at the beginning. He saw that Cassidy was also observing the situation nearby, and his brows were frowned from time to time. I didn't expect there to be a seal here, but I don't know what is sealed under this seal. Not far from the direction Ji Yunfan pointed, there were several huge rocks lying there, more than 10 meters high, but the slope was not very steep and could be climbed. From midair, these rocks should form a special 7-pointed star. That disgusting power should be emerging from below. Ji Yunfan was also a warrior, and he jumped directly onto the rocks. Standing on the rocks and observing the surrounding situation, he saw a faint ominous aura coming out of the darkness, which surprised Ji Yunfan and made him very curious about what was sealed below. There might be something bad in here. There was nothing to say about the current situation. Ji Yunfan directly stated his speculation and judgment, saying, maybe there is something we dream of. Cassidy stared at the faint ominous breath in the distance, frowned and said, the tomb of the demigod has always been very mysterious. Even those who escaped from here safely have never mentioned the situation inside. Ji Yunfan stared at the ominous breath in the distance. At this moment, a panicked voice suddenly came from behind them. Ji Yunfan and Cassidy couldn't help but look in the direction of the panicked voice. They saw that the people who were originally at peace had already met each other in battle. They were like facing the murderer of their father. Soon, several of the few people left had been killed or injured. Is it that strange ominous breath that made them lose their minds? Ji Yunfan shouted involuntarily. Kill, kill, you bastards. I made you look down on me. Haha, die one by one. Until the end, only 5 people remained sane, and the others were like bloodthirsty lunatics, tireless and fearless. It was too late for Ji Yunfan and the others to stop them. So far, except for the 5 of them, everyone else died at the hands of the people around them. What on earth is going on? Even Berkeley looked terrified. The more selfish a guy like him is, the more he fears death. His standard of doing things has always been to harm others and benefit himself. Just when the 5 of them were at a loss, the whole earth began to shake, and Ji Yunfan hurriedly ran down from the height. The place where Ji Yunfan had just stood suddenly emitted a faint blue light, and Ji Yunfan couldn't help but look in that direction. Chapter 250, Demon Ceiling Tower. The strange 7-pointed star of rocks suddenly opened, and a visible ominous aura rushed towards the 5 people in an instant. Looking at the ominous aura, Ji Yunfan and the other 5 people turned pale. The 5 people hurriedly used various means to separate themselves from the ominous aura. Boy, I really don't know whether you are lucky or unlucky. You actually encountered an Omnisaur. Even ordinary gods can't do anything about it. Sakuden said with a hint of helplessness. Yunfan is not a pessimistic person. He will never admit defeat at any time. What exactly does this so-called Omnisaur refer to? And where does it come from? I don't know. Then you should know how to remove these Omnisaurs, right? Suddenly, a violent vibration came again, and the 7-pointed star made a metallic tremor. What happened? What is sealed inside this 7-pointed star? Cassidy, who is closest to the seal of the 7-pointed star, said with a pale face. Hearing this, the remaining 4 people, including Yunfan, all frowned. Look what's over there? Zaya pointed to the crack not far from him and said. It looks like an underground passage. Perhaps the real demigod's tomb is inside. Yunfan paused for a moment and said. Since everyone has come here, it's too late to give up. I think we should explore the place ahead together. Cassidy said in a deep voice. Yes, I also think we should act together. Berkeley also spoke. Cassidy's suggestion made Berkeley a little moved. It was obvious that Berkeley was also afraid, and so were the others. Almost no one was willing to stay here any longer. In the end, everyone agreed to move forward together to explore the depths of the crack. This is a staircase made of reddish-brown rocks and gravel, with huge rock magic orbs as sporadic embellishments. When walking past the stone platform, Zaya said in surprise, there are words on these stone steps. Looking down at the brown stone platform, you can clearly see the mysterious characters on the stone. Each character seems to have a meaning that is not common in that place. The iron hooks and silver strokes are vigorous and powerful, majestic, like a circling angry dragon. It's Frowen. The characters nowadays are much more complicated, and no one knows how many years they have existed. Several people stared at the Frowen and frowned. Although Yunfan had already recognized the content of Frowen, he did not say anything. Instead, he frowned and said to himself, this so-called demigod tomb will not be another seal of an evil god. Berkeley, you are the only one here who has studied Frowen. Can you understand what the words on this stone step mean? Ogden Rodney glanced at Berkeley and said, this word should be the seal of seal. I can't recognize the others. Berkeley said, this should be built to seal a certain evil god. Yunfan said casually, after identifying these Floen. He seemed calm, but the meaning of these Floen really shocked him. Seal a certain evil god. Everyone present was terrified. Since ancient times, anyone who had anything to do with the evil god on the continent had been killed. Even if the evil god was released from the seal, the evil god would not necessarily think well of you. Although that word is the word for seal, you don't have to associate it with the evil god. I think you are worrying too much. Berkeley's face had turned pale, but he didn't want to believe Yunfan's speculation. You have to know that Berkeley has been planning for so long, and it turned out to be a place where the evil god is sealed. This is undoubtedly a big joke. After hearing Yunfan's words, Ogden Rodney was also shocked like Berkeley. His face was a little pale, and he said, the seal of the evil god. Is this just the seal of the evil god? Where is the underground fire? This is just my guess. What is inside is still unknown. Besides, even if the evil god is sealed inside, after so many years, the evil god may have turned into ashes. Cassidy said. That's right. Since we have come here, we have no choice but to move forward without hesitation. Ogden Rodney said firmly. Which of the 5 of them is not a firm person in their hearts? If they retreated just by a guess, they would not have come this far. Ogden Rodney expanded his mental power and covered the surroundings of Zaya, isolating it from the surrounding environment. Everyone finally decided to move forward and continue to move towards the depths of the gap in the distance. It doesn't seem very far, but after walking more than 500 meters, it still hasn't reached the destination. It seems that there is still a long way to go. Everyone was worried, and few people spoke carefully, seeming very dull, fearing that something unpredictable might happen ahead. After exiting the long underground passage, everyone came to an underground square. The square was very large. In the center of the square stood a tall tower. The tower was tied by iron chains, and strange words and patterns were written on it. The Omnisaur was emitted from the tower. Everyone came under the tower and looked up at the entire tower. This is The demon sealing tower. It is said that the gods cast it to seal the evil gods. Ogden Rodney suddenly said. Although they were mentally prepared, several people's faces were still full of disbelief. The 5 people stared at the demon sealing tower carefully and frowned. It was rumored that the demon sealing tower was used to seal the evil gods. Anyone who entered the demon sealing tower would eventually die. Now they were standing here. Should they go in? The demon sealing tower can be said to be the place where powerful gods were in its heyday. Later, the gods disappeared from the continent. The demon sealing tower also disappeared without a trace. However, since this demon sealing tower was once used to seal the evil god, there must be some secrets of the gods here. This is undoubtedly a huge temptation for everyone, forcing them to carefully consider whether they need to take risks. Yunfan looked at the stone tablet in front of the demon sealing tower. He actually understood the contents of the stone tablet. It reads, seal the evil god, there is no return. After a while, several people showed a resolute look on their faces and walked in from the main gate of the demon sealing tower. After everyone entered the demon sealing tower, the stone door of the demon sealing tower suddenly fell down, and they found that they now had only one choice, which was to move forward. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.